Perfect score. They have a 13-point advantage over the Gainsco crew. A couple of surprises there. Mike Shank Racing and Riley Matthews. You do not see SunTrust Racing. They're languishing down in 8th. But it is everybody chasing one team, the Ganassi squad. And it seems as though it will be more of the same here today. Chris Neville has more.
Memo Rojas grabs his first Daytona prototype pole, and it's in his hometown of Mexico City. Rojas driving this year with a lot more confidence and brimming with confidence this weekend after the 2 wins they've had. Memo, you're in front of the hometown. They're going nuts behind us. What's it like mentally getting ready for this race?
Well, I can tell you it's a very different atmosphere than what we're used to, basically, because it's my home track, and they're all cheering for us. And, well, we need to be very focused and keep our head clear so we can do the best job in the car.
The Telmex 01 hoping to keep this streak alive.
Yes, and it seems it will continue. Hi, folks. The 3 amigos with you here in Mexico City. Lee Diffie, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish. Dawson and I wanted to wear sombreros, but Calvin said it'd mess up his hair. So here we are as normal. Cal, I'll get to you in just a moment. Dorsey, let's talk Ganassi. Homestead was their 17th win of their Rolex campaign. They've won 30% of races contested. And Scott Pruitt has overtaken Alex Zanardi as the most successful Ganassi driver ever.
Well, Ganassi team is trying to do something here unprecedented. They're trying to win the 3rd in a row in the Daytona Prototype Championship. What makes this team so very good is their preparation. Remember, at the beginning of the year, everyone had to adapt to a new tire. Now, it caught some people out, not Ganassi. They unloaded at Daytona. They won that great race. Then it was down to Homestead, the first sprint race of the year. They won that as well. Now here, for the first time ever in his young career, local boy, Memo Rojas has claimed the pole. Now, back-to-back wins, and the Mexican on the pole, this is going to be a team hard to beat.
It's a pretty good-looking story, and it was a great story here last year. Certain teams like certain tracks, don't they, Cal? And the Gainsco crew love Mexico City.
It was a huge day for them here last year. They got that first Daytona prototype win, and it was really the catalyst to their championship season, ultimately 7 wins that year. But since that time, they haven't shown the dominance in terms of pace that we saw last year, making the adjustment to the Pirelli tires. But now they think they've got it together. They've made the adjustments. They're strong in the points, and in this morning's warm-up, they were half a second clear of the rest of the field on well-worn rubber, so that really bodes well for the race today.
They're 2 of the larger teams. There is a fresh team trying to emulate the big boys, and Brian Till has more.
Another young driver and team combination starting up on the front row. AIM Autosport and Mark Wilkins. Mark, your best qualifying to date. Now, you guys ran here last year. You finished well, but you really seem to have come alive in 2008. What changes has the team made, and what changes have you made personally to see these results?
Well, personally, aggressiveness would be the big key word. Starting basically in Daytona, again in Homestead. I mean, we're just really pushing hard. I'm pushing myself hard. We know we have a great car. We have a great engine that Ford's given us, and our package is really good. It's really strong, and we just have to get the most out of it and continue to push. Brian's been doing a great job, and we work really well together. And the whole AIM Autosport team. Can't say enough about the effort. I mean, everyone's got to give 100%, and this weekend just goes to show that we can run with these guys.
Well, this team may not have gotten all the results they wanted to get so far this season, but they have qualified extremely well, never out of the top 5, guys.
That's DP out of the way. Now let's talk GT, and here's what the points look like after 2 rounds so far in the narrowest of margins for TRG, Spencer Pumpelly and Tim George. Just 1 point over the Speed Source duo, and then Kelly Collins and Paul Edwards nicely positioned in 3rd. And look at that. Dirk Werner and Dominic Farnbacher back a little. They have work to do, don't they, Chris?
Lee, Dirk dug himself out of a hole here last year, running from last to the front. The start isn't going to be so tough this year. His teammate, Pierre Caffer, puts the car on pole, but only 100th of a second over Kelly Collins. Dirk, the Pontiac won Homestead. How tough are they going to be here today?
The Pontiacs are strong, no question, but the championship is so strong this year and competitive that every brand can win a race. So Porsche is definitely very fast, and we showed every race so far this season that we are fast. And I mean, to win a race, it needs a little bit more than just being fast. So the race god has to be on our side, and we have to save tires as every race because that's our issue, the rear tires. So if everything runs good for us, I think we have a good chance to beat the Pontiac here at this race, and that would be very important to bring us back in the championship. We have a little bit of a gap, so we have to be in front consistently every race and close the gap again.
87 trying to get back to those championship ways.
Yes, the defending champion for GT is feeling confident. He's feeling positive. We'll see if they can get there. But GT has been fascinating this year. The boys have really been mixing it up, haven't they?
Well, I tell you, my hat's off to the Grand Am Tech guys because they make all these manufacturers of these different cars so equal. We've had 3 races. We've had 3 different manufacturers on the pole. You know, started out with the Pontiac, then we had the Mazda. Here, of course, it's the Porsche, and by 100th of a second. So what I think, a war in GT today.
We mentioned earlier that this racetrack is a special place for Gainsco racing, but in the GT category, Carl, it's a significant venue for Speed Source as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. They got their breakthrough win here last year as well. They've come out the box strong here in 08, winning the 24-hour race at Daytona. Good points at Homestead. They're just 1 point out of that championship lead. But problems for Mazda here. After the morning warm-up, the engines were changed on both the 30 machine and the 70 machine. They go to the back of the pack. They have some work to do right now.
And when you talk GT, the key word, Brian Till, is consistency, isn't it?
Well, Lee, that's what wins championships. It's what won Dirk Werner his championship last year. They only won 1 round. Right now, Spencer Papelli, Tim George, you guys lead that championship because of consistency. Tim, not near the experience that you have. What do you have to work with him on, Spencer, to make sure that he understands what he has to do so that you guys can have that consistency?
Well, Tim's been doing a great job so far. Consistency's been one of his stronger suits. The biggest challenge for Tim is he hasn't been to a lot of these tracks, so we need to balance, getting Tim up to speed as well as the engineering time in the car. So we just got to stay smart, keep doing what we're doing. These TRG guys are awesome. The consistency that they've provided, the good setups, the good pit work, the good strategy, everything has really been the key. So,
best of luck.
Well, here at Mexico City, it can be somewhat intimidating and a little confusing finding your way around on the streets, but it's fairly straightforward here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, as Calvin and Dorsey explain.
Well, down the front straightaway here at this 2.5-mile circuit, it's a big good drag race down into turn 1. The cars, they'll get about 170 miles per hour right about here before they start the brake zone for turn 1. It's a great overtaking area, but it leads to turn 2 and turn 3, and you have to get these right. Now, this is what it looks like as you approach that brake zone down into turn 1. Hard braking. You want to get tight to the inside here. The most important series of corners is the next one after here. The third one goes down the long straightaway into the very fast turn 4.
And this is where this racetrack really starts to flex its muscles through the S's, fast transitional turns. Watch the bumps here as we're on board. It's like riding a mechanical bull and just trying to hang on. Then out of the S's down towards turn 7. Turn 7 and 8, a very fast right-hand turn. It's almost like an oval turn, even though it goes the other way. It's called the Peraltada. Chance for the drivers to catch their breath on this front straightaway. The engines do not, however, Lee.
This is just a wonderful racetrack, and the general talk around the pit and paddock area this weekend, folks, is that we are in for a special race. Last year, it went green the entire way. Will that happen again today? A record 9 cautions at the previous round at Homestead Miami Speedway. We are not anticipating that today as we show you our variety of onboards and a good mix there of Daytona prototypes and GT. Here we are on board the 67, the championship leading team. Here they come. Calvin was just talking about the Peraltada. This is it. It's a real signature point on this 2.5-mile circuit. We are getting ready for the Mexico City 250, and it's young Memo Rojas in his hometown on his very first pole position. He sees the green and puts the foot down.
Great start there. Donahue in the white and blue Brumos car also looks like he got a good jump.
Watch, but down here, the brake zone I talked about, they get congested. They stack up down here.
David Donahue knows that he has a lot more experience in the big time than Memo Rojas. Does Rojas get through the first turn okay?
Look at Wilkins!
Wilkins said that he wants to be more aggressive, and he's showing it.
Around the outside of Donahue, takes second away, thought about first, Dorsey.
And this is where it gets really quick, Calvin. They come off this corner, and they really build speed to the S's.
Remember, it's separate starts. DP first and GT second. Kelly Collins was not confident that he could go with Pierre Caffer in the Porsche down the front stretch, but so far, so good for the Pontiac GXP. But here comes the Mazda. The second Speed Source Mazda has split them.
And they bumped Calvin, just a little bit of a bump there. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 1.
And that's Jeff Siegel. What a performance he's put on this weekend. Can he keep it together? Late braking there. Tyre pressures, tyre temperatures are not up at this stage. Great start by Jeff in the 69 car.
And you saw the advantage of the Mazda. It's lighter. It's got the better braking potential. He used that to his advantage in turn 1.
Well, Kelly Collins thought he might be as low as 5th into turn 1. Second is a huge bonus. They've already swamped the pole sitter. Back to the Daytona prototypes. And it's Ganassi up front with Rojas. The Canadian Mark Wilkins for AIM Autosport runs second. And then David Donahue, who has an agenda here this weekend. He is furious after what happened at Homestead Miami Speedway and wants to bring up Brumos' first win in 5 years.
Big move by Valiente up to 4th. Where is Gurney? Fogarty's in the pits.
Well, this looks very unscheduled. I don't know why they would do something. Stop and go for something, it looks like. We haven't heard anything, but that surely looks like a stop-and-go penalty.
I didn't see him break a formation on the initial start there, Dorsey's, but something has gone amiss. Boy, we talked about them getting another win. They've got a long road ahead of them now.
Michael Valiente for SunTrust Racing in the new Dallara. There he is, flashing on by, and he's ahead of Bert Frizzell on debut. Well, not Bert, but their new car for Doran Racing. It's a Dallara Ford. It looks fantastic. They did not test this car. First time out was the Thursday session here at Mexico City, and it has been a very promising and positive start.
Well, they've got everybody talking about that car. To come out of the box like that, that's strong. Here's your GT battle, and that battle for fifth back here.
Pierre Caffa is in third. Sister car and teammate Eric Lux is in fourth. They're chasing Jeff Siegel and Kelly Collins. And then Andrew Davis, really good qualifying performance in the Stevenson Motorsports Pontiac, both at Homestead and in here. He's in the top 5.
Look at Pepe Montano, though. He's up to fifth. He's got around Davis. Davis was looking for a good start. He thought he could have been on the pole, didn't get it together in qualifying. He's dropped back a ways.
Take a look on the outside of these racetracks. Unlike what we saw last at Homestead, these are not gravel traps. This is grass. So if you go off in the grass, you just continue on. That's why we say we don't think we'll see many cautions today. It should be a great race.
Mazda, Pontiac, Porsche, and some more Pontiacs. It's a GTO-R with Pepe Montano ahead of Andrew Davis. Now here is the defending race winner, John Fogarty. Brian?
No penalty at all. Now remember the rules here, and I know you guys have talked about this before. 30 minutes minimum for a driver to get points, and each team has to stop before 45 minutes. Well, in this thin air, fuel mileage is going to be excellent, and right now the 99 just completed their first stop in 45 minutes.
Well, the boys told me this morning when I spoke to them, John Fogarty and Alex Gurney, I talked about strategy. Will everyone take an early yellow? He said yes, but there's other plays that we can make, and boy, have they made a brave one there. That means that they do not have to stop until they run out of fuel, essentially, Dorsey, because they have succeeded in getting around that 45-minute rule.
And ultimately, that will give them track position once everybody cycles through that 45-minute pit stop.
This is a huge moment for Jeff Siegel, who's leading the GT class. It's his very first visit to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit. Great stuff. He's got a comfortable margin over Kelly Collins. It looks like Pierre Caffa is starting to reel Collins in. We'll monitor that.
I think that's a brave call by the 99 team. I mean, I can see what they're doing here. They can make it on just one more stop with the fuel mileage that you're getting here. If it goes green, it will not be a 2-hour 45-minute race. It'll be about 2 hours and 20. And with the mileage you get here, Dorsey, in the thin air, it's much improved, about 10 to 15%. So they will make one more stop. I think what they've got to figure out is when they get to that GT traffic, how much is that going to slow them down?
Also, Calvin, you talk about the thin air. It also reduces the amount of downforce that the car can get. By taking him out of that lead pack of cars, he's not in dirty air. He's in very clean air. He should be able to be very quick.
Yeah, but the problem is, Dorsey, he could potentially have been leading this race. He has a fast race car, so this again is a brave call, and everyone's working at this strategy. We'll see how this one works out.
Speaking of leading this race, that's exactly what Memo Rojas has done. Winning the Rolex 24-hour, winning Homestead with Scott Pruitt. Just a remarkable start to the 2008 season. It's a Lexus-powered Riley leading for Ganassi, and then it's a Ford-powered Riley. And the relationship between these two teams, this car was the original Ganassi car.
Certain irony there, the fact that this is the brand new Riley chassis with all the latest updates leading, and that car, well, that won Ganassi their first championship right behind them.
Yeah.
So Lexus power up front, second place, that's Ford power underneath Mark Wilkins.
Should correct myself there, that is the new Riley work, the new Riley bodywork on the AIM Autosport car. I beg your pardon, they did start with that at the Rolex 24. Further behind, it's David Donahue, Michael Valiente, Bert Frizzell still running in the top 5. Matteo Bobby for Chiva Racing in the Coyote is up there to 6th. Now Bert Frizzell is dropping. Something's going on with the 47. Has he pitted already?
More strategy on the part of the 47 team, guys. Same exact deal. Stop and go. No penalty stop and go, but they've completed that first stop, the one that's mandatory in the first 45 minutes. So 47 back on pit road.
I think what these teams are counting on, both the 99 and the 47 cars, that if we get a yellow flag, that means that they will then, when we go back to green, they will have track position on the rest of the field, but it's a big if.
particularly since last year's race did not have a single yellow in it, and this racetrack doesn't really lend to many yellows because all the runoff area and the grass area around here that you can get back under control.
One thing the teams were concerned about, Dorsey, is a lot hotter here today with the late start of the race, and they felt the tyre wear issue would be a concern as the car starts to slip and slide a little bit with the high altitude drivers holding their breath. That means you can make mistakes.
You know what we saw, Calvin, is we saw tire wear to the extreme to where you could go to your end of your fuel stop, but you'd be on the cords before you got to the fuel stop. So it's a tire management race where the driver has got to think about going the whole way till he's out of fuel before he runs those tires to death.
We see a great battle here. Ruby Tuesday car, Bill Oberlin behind the wheel, chasing Mark Patterson hard. What a great qualifying effort by Mark Patterson, up in the top 10.
Yeah.
And let's give a shout out. Let's give a shout out to Gene Siegel, who started 12th in the Rum Bum car and is already up to 7th. That's a great effort.
Right now, Joey Hand has his hands full, not only with the number 3 car, Shane Lewis, right behind him, but in that 23. He and Bill Oberlin struggling all weekend long to find the balance. It's all around the rear end of that car. Watch it closely, guys. That 23 is going to be dancing around a lot. All of that makes it hard work on the drivers, but it also makes it hard work on the tires, and tire wear here is a very big concern. Shane Lewis also trying to find the balance on that Lexus-powered Riley.
Strategy is such an important part of sports car racing, and you've heard Calvin and Dorsey talk about what the 99 and 47 teams have done. Guess what? It will not work the 47's way. Bert Frizzell has received a penalty for speeding on pit road. Unlucky in that lovely car on debut. We'll see if he can fight his way back. It's Rojas, the local, leading. And they are in the mix in GT, that's for sure. Jeff Siegel, what a start from him. But what's happened here? He's dropped back and he's in the mix with all the leading Daytona prototypes. Rojas is still leading the race overall. He has lost the lead. Siegel is now second. And it is Pierre Caffer, the pole sitter, the former Sebring winner and prototype racer, now in GTs in the Grand Am Rolex Series, who is up front. Look at the mix up here. Siegel, Collins. And let's take you back to what happened and just how Pierre Caffer got the lead.
And this, you see, is down the front straightaway again. He's got a good run on the Mazda to the inside, going into the brake zone. Now, the Mazda's lighter, usually has superior brakes, but Porsche's got pretty good ones too. Pierre takes that lead, and the war is on in GT.
That was a great braking maneuver, really threshold brake in the rear of the car, dancing around. Pierre keeps it together. What a stellar career this young man has had. Won Sebring with the Audi group a couple of years ago, so he's got an awesome resume already working.
Well, and Calvin Pierre Caffer, as you just mentioned, a very accomplished race car driver, prototype experience. He drove a Ferrari last weekend, and what that has meant was it took him a little time to get up to speed in that Porsche here in Mexico City, but with each session he went quicker and quicker, and right now it looks like he's really coming to grips with that Porsche. He's taking it to the front.
As you watch Michael Valiente come through the GT traffic, here we go on board the SunTrust Dallara Pontiac power plant. As we enjoy this ride, I'm going to go through the order. It's Rojas, Wilkins, Donahue, the top three. Then this man here, Michael Valiente, the Canadian. And that result at Homestead really hurt them. We'll talk more about that in a moment. The Lola of Nick Johnson is in the top five. Then Gene Siegel from 12th to 6th. And remember, he has got Matt Plum as his teammate handing over. They're starting to become a pretty interesting combination. Oberlin is now up to 7th. Patterson is 8th. Shane Lewis is 9th. And Henry Zogabe is in the top 10.
There you see the speed difference between the Daytona prototypes and the GT machines. That wasn't a slow GT car. That was the leader.
It's about 15 miles per hour, Calvin. 155 around there for the GT. 170 on these prototypes down in turn 1.
If you're wondering where the 99 of John Fogarty is after that stop, here we go. Shane Lewis around Patterson. Fogarty is back in 12th position, some 26 seconds behind the race leader.
I have to wonder here if Marcus struggling a little bit for tyre grip. A lot of teams were concerned after about 10 laps what sort of balance they'd have on the race car. We had a lot of rain here last night. And then NASCAR qualifying a little bit earlier in the day, so the rubber on the racetrack has changed, and that changes the balance of the race car, Dorsey.
But Patterson's still doing a really good job, Cal. He's in 8th place. So remember last year, he stayed in the top 10 throughout the entire field stint, turned it over then to Ozzy, to Oswaldo Negri, and it was a very competitive team as a result.
And Dorse, that's a great point. It was their best result ever here at Mexico City last year, 9th. Henry Zogabe, there he is in the Samax BMW. Riley. He's forcing the issue with Mark Patterson. And for the gentleman drivers, for those contesting the Truman Award, they kind of use a Mark Patterson as a bit of a benchmark. Mark has been around longer than most of them. He and Tracy Crone are fierce competitors for that Truman Award. So guys like Henry Zogabe, who don't have as much experience as Mark, they really use him as the platform. Look at this. Orblin is hassling Gene Siegel, his former team owner. Down the inside, they come through on the GT cars.
This is great stuff. Billy Orblin is going to be last on the brakes. You'd have to think he'll look to the outside. Can he make it move? No. Gene, great braking there. Very smooth. 21 car and the 70 car going at it for GT position.
Orblin saying, you used to process my invoices. See how you process this pressure.
Hey, I'm impressed with Gene Siegel this weekend, guys. I mean, that team and that cars with the BMW power plant from Dynan is really strong.
They are the surprise of the season. Matt Plum in the Rum Bum car. Bit of a mouthful, but he and Gene Siegel doing a tremendous job. They've led races this year. They have always been a factor.
Brian, what do you have for us?
Bill Lester standing here watching Shane Lewis going to work right now. And Bill, welcome back to sports car racing. I know you went around and around for a while, but you and Shane really, your driving style seems to match up so well, and you guys really putting on a charge here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great that Shane and I complement each other as far as our driving style. With the Southern Motorsports, Lexus Riley, we're doing pretty well. We qualified 10th. We're now in 8th. I'm just rooting Shane on. I know he's going to bring me back a good car. He's very meticulous with it. And I'm just hoping that luck's going to be on our side. I predict we're going to get a top 5. That's what we're looking for.
This team ran well here last year, and right now, Bill Lester, he's never been here before, but he's been watching a lot of in-car video from none other than Ayrton Senna to learn his way around Mexico City.
I saw Shane Lewis in the gym the other night working out. I couldn't believe how fit he was. I wasn't in the gym, mind you.
You lose your room key or something?
The bar.
Nice how fit anyone is.
There was a glass partition between the bar where I was at and where he was at.
Well, they have very serious goals, and when I say they, Southern Motorsports, as both Shane Lewis and Henry Zogabe were both. Zogabe's gone! Under brakes in turn 1 and collects Montano.
Just hard on the brakes there. Looked like he had too much rear brake bias there, and may have mismatched the downshift there a little bit, put it down the gear a little bit too early. Hopefully he got away with it. Did he keep it running?
Yeah, I did. And I'll tell you what, I thought Henry was going to get the better part of that because the Pontiac turned it back straight again. Almost had him back on the road, but he spun it. So now he's got some work to catch back up.
Either he got on the brakes too late or he was surprised where Shane was braking, took the option of braking even harder so he didn't punch Shane. So disappointing, but still.
Oh, trouble here.
This is disappointing. Second place, problems for the Ford-powered Riley of Mark Wilkins.
And that looks, Calvin, to me like an oil leak. That's not rub back there at the back of the car. It's coming out either as an oil leak from underneath. I don't think it's coming out of the header. No, it's not. It's an oil leak.
Well, this is disappointing for another Frizzell brother here in this race. We thought we could have seen Brian and Bert in different cars here on the podium potentially. 47 car got that stop-and-go penalty. And now Brian Frizzell's teammate Mark Wilkins seeing a lot of smoke out of that 61 machine.
Well, it seems to be getting worse, really.
To give a shout-out to the Brad Frizzell. He's been in hospital recently. Would be dying to be here. Now we're taking a look at Henry Zogabe, Dorsey.
He gets in here pretty deep, and he look a little real brake bias. Turns the car. Now he could have saved it right here, but I think he got on the throttle too hard in the dirt area. And you see as a result, he spun.
The other thing we're hearing, Dorsey, offline there's a lot of marbles. These Pirelli tires are quite soft, and we're seeing a lot of marble buildup on the outside offline. Once you get out there, you're out for a ride.
Oh boy, good job here reading where to go. And these tires really put up a lot of smoke compared to last year's tires. I've noticed that a lot too.
Now, although we saw the smoke, Wilkins is still going okay, Brian.
Just checked in with Ian Willis. You see it predominantly in left-hand corners as Mark Wilkins heads to pit road. They're saying nothing on the telemetry is showing right now. But Wilkins, his pit spot, the first one on pit road, so he'll bring it to a stop right here. The crew will go to work. They'll service the car, and they're definitely going to check underneath the engine, Cal, see if they can determine the source of that smoke.
Wow, what disappointment for these guys. There you see it just pouring oil out of the underbelly, Dorsey.
That looks like the gearbox. I think he split a gearbox case is what's happened there. I looked at that oil and it looked like it was red in color. It's definitely coming out from underneath, and that wouldn't be the oil pan back there. That's a gearbox problem, I'm pretty sure.
They really feel they're on the verge of breaking through for a podium, perhaps even pushing for victory, but it's not going to be the case. Oh no, problems here for the 59. The combination of Joao Barbosa and JC France, and that's at the Peraltada.
Yeah, it's at the exit of the Peraltada, and I don't think that there's any damage to this car. So that's a very, very fast corner for those that have never been here.
JC's seen a bit of action in that turn before.
Yes, with Chris Bingham a few years ago.
Well, that was at the very exit. And Calvin, usually when you spin, you do it mid-corner. Oh, dear. It was mid-corner.
Lucky he didn't get clobbered there by the car. Whoa,
that was
tight.
Eric Luck's doing a good job. A couple of prototypes doing a great job as well to avoid JC France. And I noticed on that previous shot that Pepe Montano, who was involved in the accident with Henry Zogabe, is still circulating. Damage on the car, but still going. More from Mexico when we come back. This Wednesday from 9 Eastern here on Speed Pinks, where there will only be one winner. It's a high-stakes drag race. Find out who wins all the glory and who has to hand over their car. You know the rules. With Pinks, it's lose the race, lose your ride, Wednesday at 9. We're back. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader and the boys on pit road, Brian Till and Chris Neville. Our race leader is in, and we're just over the 20-minute mark in this race.
We expect to see some service this time, 20 minutes in. I'm sure they'll top him up with fuel. We will not, however, see a driver change, Dorsey, we don't believe.
You're correct. You see the 21 minutes, 58 seconds right now. The driver that's in the car who started the race has got to go 30 minutes to be eligible to get points in that car. So this right here tells you they're not going to do any kind of a driver change because they're not to the 30 minutes yet.
Chris?
Very quick pit stop here, guys. Just going to be fuel. So Rojas doing a great job keeping this car out front. They should be able to go about an hour 5 to an hour 10 until that next stop.
There is Scott Pruitt, sports car superstar.
There's some strategy right there once again.
And the key is by coming in and coming back out again, they have stayed in front of the Fogarty car that you see in the background. The car in the background there, the red car, is the 99 car that took that strategy of pitting early.
61 still on pit road. What it is, guys, is the seal on the side of the gearbox. So they're going to have to replace that seal. That's going to be time consuming. The crew had asked the officials down here, hey, we don't have the part right now. Can we send it out for a couple of more laps and then put it on when we get the part back to pit lane? Dorsey, I'm sure you guys would have said that too. Of course, the official said, no, we don't need the oil on the racetrack, guys.
But it was a good try anyway.
That's like saying, can I finish my meal? My wallet's in the car.
You've done that many a time, particularly when I'm at the seat with him.
Well, here is the 91, the Riley Matthews car of Jim Matthews and Mark Goosens. They're well placed in the points. You know, they're fourth at the moment in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. The 77 of Brad Yeager, Mamo Gidley. Brad's currently in 11th place. And then Matt Plum has climbed aboard the number 2. The number 2 is, I did this at Homestead as well. Of course, it's Ryan Dial in the car. Henry Zogabe has handed that over to him.
I think there's going to be a stop-and-go penalty, though, because we heard that when Henry Zogabe came in, he exceeded the speed limit by 12 miles per hour, which is
12.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, guys, the 91 going with a little bit different aerodynamic strategy this weekend. You'd think with this long straightaway here, a lot of these teams would be running very trimmed out, but most of the prototypes running an aggressive angle at the back, the kickers, and also those long louvers up front for more downforce to try and get through the S's and the Paralitata. Talking to Bill Riley, he said, you know what, we're going to go with a medium downforce setup because we think we're going to run into a lot of traffic back in the S's. Also, down in that first corner coming onto the front straightaway, so we want a little bit more straightaway speed down this very long front straight. Brian?
Different strategy down here on the part of the 77. First, they found a problem that they had throughout qualifying, and that was they'd been running the wrong map, and they were down about 25 to 40 horsepower. So they got that map sorted out. Brad Yeager now trying to stay on the lead lap. That's the other part of this strategy. He needs to finish his 30 minutes and stay on the lap before Memo Gidley gets in the car. But right now, this different pit strategy that the other teams have been employing is going to be a big help to Brad Yeager, helping him stay on that lead lap. And when Memo Gidley gets in the 77, look out, guys. He has been a rocket ship this weekend.
And when Brian talks about a map, what he's talking about is a different setting for the ECU, the electronic control unit that runs the engine management. A map can be turned down to get more fuel mileage. It slows the car up. You can put a rain map in where it takes the power away from the engine. They were on one of those maps by mistake, and that's what he's talking about by a fuel map.
In GT, Pierre Caffa still leads the way for Farnbacher Lowles, ahead of Kelly Collins, Jeff Siegel, Eric Lux, and this man here, Nick Ham, who's fending off a challenge from Andrew Davis in the Stevenson Motorsports Pontiac. Now this is the car, the 70, the black one that won the Rolex 24 GT class. Calvin mentioned earlier that they had dramas earlier this morning. In the warm-up this morning, Nick Ham told me they were losing as much as a second. They couldn't work out what the problem was with the engine. They said it's not worth risking it. Let's just change it out and put a fresh one.
He just ran over something. He was very loose in the S's also, Dorsey, so that's not a good sign this early in the run after lap 19. And there we see, tucking it down tight. Is that his line through this corner? Many different lines through here. We said it's very much like an oval turn, and you can see the different approaches.
This Mazda so fast here last year, it took the victory, but in talking to Sylvain Tremblay, he said these new Pirelli tires, the front tires just don't give them the grip that they had before, so the balance of the car not quite right. When they changed that motor, Calvin, I think they probably made some setup changes as well to try and grip in the front end. That may be what you see right now. Maybe they added too much and the car's getting loose. Chris?
Well, Brian, the Stevenson Pontiac has had a hard year. They had damage at Daytona, then they had a steering bushing fail at Homestead when they were going very fast. They're hoping for a little bit more luck this weekend, and they may just get that because Mike Johnson sitting atop the box controlling this team. His wife just had their second child, a little daughter, Olivia Michelle, just on Thursday of this week. So this team hoping that new arrival maybe bring them a little bit of luck.
Yeah, Mike said that when we had our son, our first child, he came after Daytona. He was good enough to wait. My daughter did not.
Well, I tell you, we had an unusual amount of engine failures over the weekend, talking about that Mazda that changed the engines this morning. And I think it's this high altitude, 7,300 feet. And, of course, the engines are running with less air. They run a little higher engine temperature as a result of that. And it's taking its toll. We'll have to see as the race goes on if it rears its ugly head.
Jeff Siegel's still doing a good job in the number 69 Mazda you guys talked about earlier. This was his first trip to Mexico City. As a driver, though, guys, he came here last year as a spotter for this team, so he knows about traffic and the way it flows. Right now, we're full course caution.
First of the day, and this is a surprise.
I'm thinking it's going to be that debris. Yep, there you go. There's some more of it.
It's one of the chrome cars.
Yeah, it's one of the Lolas, and that's a fairly chunky piece of bodywork, isn't it? It's quite sizable. And it's just not worth the risk to keep that out there. It's on the 75 of Nick Johnson.
He's running great right now, up in third spot. He had a strong run going at Homestead. Then they ran a foul. Some problems in the pits.
Tracy Cronut is in the 75. Of course, they've switched this year. Nick and Ricardo are in the 76. We'll be back. In 2007, this race went from flag to flag without a caution. Here we are in our first full course yellow. Welcome back to Mexico City. You're watching the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series here on Speed, and we have now crossed that 30-minute mark. Why is that relevant? Every driver has to do at least 30 minutes in the car, and every team has to stop for a mandatory stop before the 45-minute mark. This is an interesting point.
You see the 01, they just made their pit stop, so they're going to stay out. 7 car, that's a bit of a surprise. 99 also stays out. Brian.
Michael Valiente in the SunTrust car. Perfect timing here. He'll get his points. Angelelli will take over. One of the things Michael said about this car is that it's great on long runs. So Angelelli gets in. It'll definitely be a long run from him. Finishing the pit stop, and they'll be down and away.
Well, our leader, the 58, and the team opting to put Darren Law behind the wheel, taking that longer stop right now. This team has been reviewing video of their pit stops the past few weeks, trying to chip time off. They've knocked about 5 seconds off of their tire changes, taking it from about 22 down to about 15 or 16 seconds. Darren with a very quick stop here. Now, that's going to be important later in this race because they might be in a short fill situation, and Darren will already be behind the wheel. So this team could make some big progress with what they've been working on in these pit stops.
Good stop from the 76 team of Nick Johnson, Ricardo Zonta. They got out in front of Angelelli. You can see it there at the bottom of the screen.
I think the 23 car had a lightning stop, if my eyes don't deceive me. They were rolling way early.
Well, those contacts do have quite a magnification on them.
It used to be bad when I couldn't see my golf ball when I was using the driver. Now I can't see it with a putter.
All right, so the DPs are serviced in the way that the caution works with the pit stops. First time around, it's the Daytona prototypes can come in. Second time round, GTs come in. Hopefully third time round, we go back racing. This is the Racer's Edge Mazda RX-8. Is on the pit road with Craig Stone behind the wheel. This is the other Mazda that was forced to change an engine after it blew earlier this morning in the warm-up. So I think we've got an interesting one here, guys, the way it's shaking out. There's a variety of strategies out on track. Memo Rojas is back up into the top spot.
Well, I think there's a mistake there by Craig. He shouldn't have come down pit lane at that point. I think if you continue to roll through, but it's Daytona prototypes only on that lap, Dorsey.
Yeah, and he made that mistake.
GT.
Realized it, or the team got on the radio and said, just keep on going, now you're going to have to come back in again. So it cost him a little bit, but there won't be a penalty as a result. The first time around is only for the Daytona prototype cars. Then once that's been done, the second time around, the GT guys are eligible to take their pit.
Gene Siegel of this group is really the only surprise in not taking that pit stop. They haven't been in the pits yet. The other rule is 30 minutes to get your driver log time, but you have to make your first stop before the 45-minute mark. So we've only got 13 minutes or so before that point. So they're going to get a little bit of a splash here running up front, but it's going to cost them, I think, in terms of strategy.
You heard Brian say in his pit reporter just a moment ago about he will get his points, talking about Michael Valiente, and what the point that Brian was making is that if you do less than 30 minutes, Grand American will not score you. So here we go. This is the GT time, and Pierre Caffa is the leader. Kelly Collins has been rock solid in second, and what a moment, what a performance from Jeff Siegel. First time here at Mexico City. That car, incidentally, the 69 Speed Source Mazda, finished on the podium here a year ago.
A lot of GT traffic on pit lane right now, as you would assume. Pit lane now open. Caffer in the lead. As we said, really getting accustomed to that Porsche. He may not be accustomed getting out of it, though. This stop taking a little bit of time. He didn't slide the seat back now. Dirk Werner climbing behind the wheel. He was magic here last year. Right now, Werner should be well under control. He said that this car very good on tires right now. They're not concerned about anything, but he will be in the car for a long time, Chris.
Robin Liddell jumping behind the wheel of the Stevenson Pontiac. This team also making a big change after Homestead. They've decided to employ one of the Pratt & Miller engineers that worked on the development of this car. Talking with Mike Johnson about that, he said it's not cheap, but the information that they are providing has been absolutely invaluable. It really takes me out of working on the setup and just working on the operational characteristics of this team. So the team saying the car is working great, and they're excited about that new relationship.
Yeah, and I spoke to Rob Liddell this morning about that new engineer whose name is Carl Mullally. He's a young guy who works for Pratt & Miller, and he said he's really hungry. He wants to beat the Banner Boys, so a lot of rivalry even within the Pontiac ranks up and down pit lane.
Isn't it amazing? Within the space of a year, Stevenson Motorsports, they were running some older Corvettes. They said, no, let's get away from the second car. Let's just run one and focus on that. Then at the end of last year, purchased the brand new Pontiac GXPR. And here they are vying for top fives and podiums.
Well, I hear at VIR coming up that one of those Corvettes is going to run once again, so they'll run a two-car effort at that VIR Virginia racetrack in just a week's time.
We talked about Billy Orble, and he's currently in 5th spot. He made a lot of ground in that sequence of pit stop, and I think the reason was it is still Billy Orble behind the wheel. So I think everyone at this point, even the guys who pitted early, should be good to make it on one stop. It's going to be tight for the 99 boys who pitted on lap 1, of course. Rojas is in better shape, and he'll have the lead in terms of how much fuel he has in his tank. So just with the shorter race here and the better mileage you get, everyone is talking about this really essentially being a one-stop race from this point on.
Before we go back to racing, here's the state of play. It's Memo Rojas is the race leader over Gene Siegel, who, as Calvin said, did not come in. Fogarty is 3rd. Matteo Bobby for Chiva Racing is 4th. Bill Orblin is 5th. Darren Law is 6th. 7th is Zonta. Angelelli is 8th. Negri is 9th. And Mark Goossens is inside the top 10.
Matteo Bobby, they also took the shot that the 23 car did by saving a bit of time in changing drivers, kept Matteo Bobby in the car. They have made a stop, though, 5 laps ago. Oh, actually, it was on lap 5, 17 laps ago.
But for Gene Siegel, this is going to be not good because the 45-minute is coming up pretty soon.
So he's going to have to come in under green. It was
a bad call there because he has to stop by the 45 minutes, and when he does that, he's going to go from.
I just wonder if the team thought, Dorsey, that maybe the other one were going to pit again, didn't really think about their strategy, and they would have had the lead, which is great stuff. But right now he's 2nd. He's only got a few minutes left before he needs to pit.
Through the Peraltada. Caution period is over, and the green flag flies here in Mexico. Rojas, what a moment in his career.
What a moment for Gene Siegel. Look at him go to the outside. Does he have the grunt with that BMW, Dorsey?
I think he does. He's inching ahead, and the outside is a good area down here if he can stay by side.
Rojas has the line. He stays there. Here comes Fogarty. Determined. He was frustrated from qualifying yesterday. He said people held him up, and he thinks some people may have done it on purpose. Negri gets pushed back in the pack. That's Goossens getting by him.
Remember them on the last few laps
yeah.
at Homestead trading some paint.
Here's Fogarty on Siegel. He gets second place. Gene doesn't want to give it up, but he has to.
Have to be so careful into this corner, Dorsey. It really wants to lighten up that inside right front tyre. Very easy to get a flat spot into that corner, particularly when you just put new rubber on.
And look in the back in 6th places. The Brumos Porsche, Darren Law behind the wheel, is being very, very aggressive right now.
And this is a great opportunity for car 2, the black and silver machine, for Ryan Dial to get back on the lead lap. After Zogabe had quite a frightening experience at the end of the front straight. Not too much damage on the car. Matteo Bobby's in the mix. And David Donahue said all he wanted to do this weekend was give Darren Law a good race car after handing it over. And that's what he's done. Laura's in the mix. Angelelli's in the mix. It's on.
Oh, and that's a fast area to be going side by side, Calvin.
That's Orbel, and I think right in front of him. So Angelelli's going to be a man on a mission. The last of the late breakers coming down into turn 1.
And speaking of turn 1, it's Ganassi and Gainsco. It is Rojas and Fogarty, the top 2 teams in the championship. And we all know that there is no love lost between those 2 organisations.
Oh, Angelelli breaks hard. He tries to outbrake Orbel, and then they take Bobby at the same time.
Great move, Max Angelelli. You called him Max the Axe,
yeah.
And that's what he's known for right there.
Oh, Bobby really wide. Once you lose the rhythm through those corners, look at the ground that he's losing right now, and Negri going to attack next.
Goosens was the one who went through nicely. Then it's Oswaldo Negri lining up for a shot. Fogarty still hasn't been able to get by on the race leader, Memo Rojas, who is really absorbing this pressure beautifully.
Just got shuffled out, Calvin. There was no way anybody was going to give him a break.
And it's a little dirty offline, and it's very hard until you get those tires scrubbed to get that grip back. But this is going to be a great battle.
On board with Angelelli.
That's a move he's known for, isn't it? I mean, classic.
This is where this Crawford has not been happy this weekend through the S's. It hasn't liked the bumps. They don't think they've got enough suspension travel in that Crawford chassis. And, of course, they're waiting for that new bodywork, which we should see sometime in June.
I think you're going to see that at Watkins Glen, if I'm not mistaken.
The race leader is doing a superb job so far. Let's hear what his co-driver thinks. Chris?
Well, I think we definitely think the 99 has to come in for 2 stops, but the 01 looks like it's good. Scott, you think you're good for just 1 more stop, but definitely you guys didn't take tires in that first stop, so Memo's going to have over half this race on a set. This track has been pretty hard on tires. What is he going to be dealing with?
Yeah, Telmac's car's running real good. We're real happy with it. Again, we focus on working on old tires. We ran tires a long way in practice. We know where we need to be. He's still running strong laps. Out of my family at home. So I think we're in good shape. It's going to be a fight to the end for sure with a 99 and maybe somebody else, but from our standpoint, we're in good shape.
Right now, he's got a hungry horde behind him, and this is his hometown race. Is he saying anything over the radios?
You know, he's doing a great job. I mean, for him to come here and get pole, his first pole in his hometown was huge. The fact that we have so many ties here with Telmex to Mexico is huge, and if he wins this race and come through and come away with a victory, it's going to be one big party tonight.
Well, last year he tutored this young Mexican very hard and at times was a bit frustrated with him, but this year he's very impressed with how he's come out of the box.
I was talking to Chip Ganassi yesterday and he said Rojas has stepped it up and he really is proud of the performance so far in 2008. Remember, Pruitt is doing double duty this weekend at the NASCAR Nationwide Series race tomorrow. Scott qualified well.
Outside front row for Scott, and we got a bunch of cars mixing it up back here.
Sort of ugliness, as you call it,
yes.
Doss.
And it's not getting any better.
Orbelin has the inside. Angelelli is in the middle, and Goosen's on the outside.
And all you need to do to that is add Negri.
And here is Oz. Oz is in the mix. Zonta is there as well.
It's pouring fuel on the fire right there.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Ian James. Brian?
Number 7, the Rum Bum car on pit road. Matt Plum getting behind the wheel. Now this team, I think this was a mistaken strategy, guys. They had that caution. It was right after the 30 minutes. You've got to pit before 45. So why didn't they come to pit road then? A mistake here as Matt Plum heads back out on the racetrack. But I can tell you one thing, he will be fast. He loves this car.
Sounded like when he left, he didn't get in low gear. It sounded like he was in third.
Let's see what Matt Plum can do, but he's got a lot to catch up on as Rojas continues to lead the way. Back at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, for round 3 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, and we're talking GT right now. Here is Paul Edwards, and he is in a very confident position out in front, and his teammate did a great job to start with, Brian.
Well, Kelly Collins and Paul Edwards did a great job at Homestead. You guys dominated that race, and so far today, looks like a very comfortable pace that you guys are able to set, Kelly.
Well, right now the track is very, very hot. The guys here at the Banner Pontiac GXP Racing program here, we've really worked hard on a setup. We've made a gamble. We went softer on springs, and the car's just rolling through the corners. If we really try to hit it hard or down, use the gears that we've been using, we'll tear up our tires. So right now we're just pacing ourselves. We're also worried about a little bit of overheating. When I was in traffic with the Mazda, my alarm kept going off, so I had to keep dipping in and getting some fresh air. So right now, we're just trying to set a pace. We got another 2 hours to go, and we'll see where we are at the end.
Dorsey, you talked about alarms. You always just reset them and didn't pay attention to them.
Yeah, as long as it wasn't squealing in my ear, to heck with it.
And as we keep our eyes on Paul Edwards, here's a pretty cool thing in his career. Drivers like Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Jim Clark, Rick Mears, Sebastian Bourdais have all been 2-time winners on this circuit. Well, so too is Paul Edwards. He won the GT class in 05 and 06. Chris?
Well, Andrew Davis had a great run in the 57. Andrew, all weekend long we've been hearing about this being a Porsche track, higher top end down the straightaway, about 5 miles an hour quicker than the Pontiac. But why do we see 2 Pontiacs out front right now?
Well, luckily for us, the entire track's not a straightaway. The back part of the track is really favoring our Pontiac, and the Stevenson Pontiac is great back there. It's a bit frustrating the first stint there because you're just all over the guys, but you get out here on the front straight, they just pull away. But what I was finding was that those guys are just starting to work back to us. I think their tire wear in the rear is a bigger problem than ours. Our car's very balanced, feels good. They're going to be able to keep it going for the full stint, so hopefully we'll stay up front and they won't catch us.
Well, I'm pretty surprised we got the interview with the team here. There's a team-wide memo that went out this week that said no interviews with speed, because every time we do an interview with one of the team members, bad luck befalls this team, so hopefully no bad luck now.
How dare they?
Well, play it that way, will you?
I tell you, Rob Nadal is really starting to close the gap there to Paul Edwards. Traffic may have played a little bit of a part in that, but we talk about the rivalry, the engineers, they all want to beat each other. Here we see a great battle for 3rd spot in GT.
Remember, the 2 races so far in GT, 2 different winners. The Speed Source Mazda, we ride on right now, winning the Rolex 24, and then the Pontiac GXPR for Banner Engineering, winning at Homestead. Will we see a Farnbacher Lowell's car up there? Will we see the Stevenson Motorsports Pontiac up there?
Well, remember, this Mazda had to start at the very back of the pack due to 1 of 2 engine changes on these Mazdas at the last minute. So he's come a long way to be up in the battling for 3rd position right there.
Talked to Dirk this morning about getting through these S's. He said you really have to be patient. You can't just charge each one. You got to set up the next one, and that's the critical one as they run off the road. They're using the access road to really get the best exit speed and head out down to this corner, which is very demanding. You got a wall around the inside, kind of brake very late. You see the different line there. Nick Cam going all the way to the inside, and Dirk staying a little bit higher through the corner.
He's doing what in the road or in the oval car tires is called a diamond turn. He's cutting in early, making an early apex, as we call it, letting the car drift out wide, slowing it down in the middle part of the corner, and then launching off with it to get a straightaway run.
Brian mentioned earlier about the front end problems they're having, and they're just trying to adapt to the new Pirelli P0s. And Rafael Navarro, the program director at Pirelli, and his engineers are working very closely with Speed Source to rectify that situation.
Here's Ronnie Fellows. He's making a guest appearance here this weekend for GM in the 06 car alongside Leighton Reese. I think Leighton had one of the quotes of the year by saying he and Ronnie have 20 Trans Am wins behind them. He said Ronnie has 19, I have 1.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. It's lovely to have him in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and he's enjoying his time in the GXPR. Take a look at this, and it really is quite the career for the very likeable Canadian, winning the Rolex 24 overall in 2001. Of course, the Le Mans victories, Sebring victories, and his American Le Mans Series GTS championships, and of course now GT1 in that series.
Such a show-off.
Leighton said there was 100 years between the 2 of them, and then Linda, the wife of Ron Fellows, said, he's not 50. Does that make you 52?
We need to squeeze in a quick break here. We're going to leave Mexico. Don't go away. Lots of great storylines when we come back, including a young Mexican leading the way. We're back, and yes, that is a new race leader, the 99 Gainsco, Bob Stallings, Pontiac Riley of John Fogarty. It was a brilliant move. We're going to show you the replays, but Fogarty, we thought here he may have just been shadowing Rojas, saving a little fuel, but he showed us that that is not what his plan was. Check this out, heading into the Peraltada, turns 7 and 8.
Sets him up, goes really deep to the inside. Now, I didn't think he'd stick. As he comes around the in car, the red car should get loose. It does get loose here. Watch, they'll make their first contact right there. Now it gets kind of ugly because neither driver willing to concede. Watch what happens here.
Here it gets ugly, Dorsey.
Yeah. Should we count? There's already been 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, there's 6, and 7.
And if there's not a penalty for that driving, I just don't know what there will be.
The last one was a little aggressive. The first one was just kind of a love tap.
I mean, that was just continued
intimidation there, but Fogarty was having none of it.
They are the defending race winners. Let's go to the Gainesco camp, Brian.
Bob Stallings was just watching the replays. I thought Salt Lake City was a long time ago, Bob, but it seems to still be carrying over to 2008.
Seems to me, well, you know what, we're just out there trying to have fun and win our race, and for some reason the guy wants to bang into us. I don't know what that's about.
All right, Chris, what's going on? What's the story from that end of pit lane?
Well, it's definitely not that story, Brian. This team down here telling Mamo right now, hey, don't let this guy get in your head. Keep up with him. Do whatever you can to push. Mamo saying there's nothing wrong with the car, but the team thinking that was the 99 car taking some swings at him.
Well, I don't see it that way, certainly. I think one thing we have to discuss here, both Pruitt and Rojas like a very different setup on the race car, Dorsey. So when you get to race time, both drivers have to drive that same setup. And I think right now what we're really seeing is that maybe Rojas doesn't have the car perfectly to his liking. They have to have keyed into when Pruitt gets in the car, having the car he wants to get it to the checkered flag.
And we saw Fogarty, in my estimation, the car getting better. He sat back there, and I wouldn't say patiently, but he sat back there, and it started whittling away. You could see it coming.
The other thing they said to me this morning, both John and Alex said our car is brilliant on used rubber, and we saw that in the morning warm-up. They said the balance does not go away, something they're really focused on.
It's only Rojas' third appearance here at Mexico City. Here is Goossens on the inside of Darren Law. Makes that stick, does that pretty easy. Just to finish that point on Rojas, he raced here in a Formula 3 car, but on the same circuit in reverse. And he said that was kind of fun, but it was a little more dangerous.
Saw Darren Law right there do a very smart thing. Once he saw Goossens had him clearly into that corner, he just let that pass happen versus stay side by side.
And that was for third, Dorse, so that was nice work from the Goose. On board with Angelelli. He currently runs 2 positions further back in 5th. There is Darren Law up ahead. That's the target.
Michael Valiente watching that 10 car out on track right now. Michael, great first run, and one of the things that you told me earlier this weekend is the longer the 10 car stays on track, the better it gets, well balanced over the long run.
Yeah, it's been really good. All weekend long, I'd say the strength is definitely on the long runs rather than just sheer speed, so I think towards the end we should be really good.
I know you went back to the trailer after your stint. It's hot out here. I know you got some hydration. Max typically does not like heat, and it is warm, and obviously the altitude here. Are you going to be ready to get back in if you need to?
No, hopefully he doesn't wimp out. I think it should be fine. I told him to drink lots before the race, so hi to my wife and my new son.
All right, you heard him giving his teammate a little bit of grief, but interestingly enough, it wasn't just Bob Stallings in the Ganassi crew looking at our replay. Wayne Taylor was looking at it as well. He grabbed me before that piece with Valiente and said, that's ridiculous. Both of those guys need to serve penalties. Of course, who would gain some positions from that?
Yeah, well, Angelelli tried it on Darren Law, but Law was not about to let him through and hand over 4th place.
You know, at the beginning of this season, there was some discussion by Grand Am officiating that they were going to allow a little duking it out, a little bit more aggressive driving. We remember last year we had so many driver penalties all the time for being too aggressive. They said, we're going to let them bang a little bit. I think that's what we just saw.
Yeah, as long as there's not damage and you take the other guy out, but it was certainly walking that fine line there.
Well, Mark Goossens really charging up in the 91 car. Now, I talked to Bill Riley. Originally, before the race, he thought they were going to go with a medium downforce setup on this car. I just asked him. He said, you know what? We went really trim. We wanted the speed down in the straightaway. Right now, it's paying off. But we're going to have to keep an eye on that car because Jim Matthews did take the car off the racetrack. It's running a little bit hot right now. He thinks everything's going to be okay. It's kind of stabilized, but Goossens having a good run. He saw that video of the 99 and the 01 coming together. He said, I don't care whose fault it is. If the 99 takes out the 01, those guys aren't getting out of here.
That's about right.
We said to Mark Goossens earlier this morning, Calvin and I, hey, make it interesting for us at the end. He said, I will. So he is there. Here's Ryan Dial. He's still scrambling, trying
Oh, no.
The hamster.
Nick Ham, big contact, back of the car, really torn up. I don't think they'll be fixing that today.
Well, he's still rolling that right rear corner suspension-wise.
Oh, but look where pit in. He's missed pit in.
Oh, it must have been in the Peraltada.
It was in the Peraltada. Now he has to do an entire lap.
Oh, and the problem is, Dorsey, the debris.
Boy.
We've seen a lot of flat tires here when those carbon fiber shards are spread around the racetrack like this. This is concerns for everyone now, not just Nick Ham.
2.5 miles he's going to have to drag this Mazda to get it back into the pit lane.
Nick will stay wide. He'll stay off the racing surface. He's experienced enough to know that.
Should have good rear downforce, Dorsey.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
Well, so, will he be able to limp back?
Well, I think
so far, so good. Let's see if this tells us a little more. This is in the Peraltada.
Oh,
who's
outside.
on the inside there?
The 21
That's
car.
the Matt Connolly car. Oh, he just got nailed.
Diego Alessi behind the wheel.
Now that's the problem when you get brave and you go to the outside in the Peraltada, that you go outside. If the guy on the inside loses grip and comes out and touches you, watch this.
Well, Alessi was there, Dorsey. You saw the side of Alessi's car early, and then Nick just tried to keep it on the outside, and they touched. And it doesn't take much when you're fully loaded in that corner to lose the rear end of the race car.
No, and you're going so quick there, Calvin, with that big concrete wall all the way around. There's no way you're going to spin and miss it.
This is a handful for Nick Ham. We've got our second full course caution. Second full course caution. This helps a couple of people, most notably Matt Plum and also Ryan Dial in their quest to catch up. We'll be back.
Well, the interesting point now in terms of strategy, we're 40 laps in of a 100-lap race. We're just over an hour in terms of time. And here we're seeing some action on pit road. I think guys pitting now may be able to squeak it to the finish without a splash for fuel. Here we see the leader on pit road, Memo Rojas. We will see a driver change here. Chris is waiting.
Cal, I just checked in with Timmy Keene. He said it's going to be real close after this stop. They are probably going to need some caution, but Memo Rojas doing a great job bringing the Telmex car into pit lane and keeping that car out front. Scott Pruitt taking over. The crowd off to my right really going crazy as Rojas emerged from the car. The team having a good stop here. Just about done with tires already and just waiting on fuel and Pruitt to get in the car. Should be pretty long stop here on fuel because they have been out for a while. The car is down, just waiting through these last few drops, and Brian Till down with the 91.
Alex
made a big mistake.
Alex Gurney, the finisher here, routine stop. They're holding the fuel, not quite in. He's down and away. I looked at the left side of that car after the contact with the 01. Just a few marks down the side of it, guys. Not much damage at all.
They're strong cars. They just proved it to us there because they bashed each other about 9 times.
The one thing is you need every last drop of fuel in. You want that full to the brim to try and make it here. 60 laps. That's a long way to go.
Yeah, it's a long way to go.
But the weird thing is, I was talking to some of the engine guys here, Dorsey, they said when you lean out here in this high altitude, it's really kind of a strange deal, is you're not losing that much power. They can't figure it out. You gain mileage, but you don't lose a lot of power. So maybe if they need to get that mileage, these boys can lean it out.
It's strange, too, because that other problem we've been talking about is the fact that these cars are running very close to overheating as a result of the thin air here.
Well, there's one of the talking points of this race was the pass and then the following banging between the 99 and 01. Here it is here. We'll have a look at the replay, and then we're going to hear John Fogarty's side of the story. Rojas on your right, Fogarty on your left, and there were 7 hits in total.
This is the one that's pretty blatant over there, that last one.
And that's where it finished. All right, let's hear Fogarty's side of the story.
Well, Lee climbs out of the car. He had a big smile on his face. But, John, something tells me you weren't smiling during that little incident down the front straightaway. What's going on out there?
Well, the big problem is we pitted when we shouldn't have. But, the Gainesco car was good enough to work our strategy the way we wanted to and get by the one. We had a battle there. I guess, that's not what I expected out of Memo, but I guess in his home country in front of all his fans, he gets pretty desperate. So I'll forgive him this time, but I'm going to punch his teeth out next time. So don't let it happen again, Memo.
Well, this team felt like they had a car for the pole, but qualifying didn't work quite their way, and you can tell John Fogarty not particularly pleased with Memo Rojas today.
And it's been this track has materialized a lot of emotion for John Fogarty. Do you remember the dramatic finish last year where they notched up their first win? And let's go back to 2007 because it was an amazing year. We finished in dramatic fashion between Ganassi and Gainesco. This was the first incident, and this was the second one in which Ganassi were penalised and Gainesco went on to win the championship. Homestead, Miami Speedway, clip. How about that? There's a lot of history between these two teams, and that was close in the race coming off pit road. And then last year here, the dramatic finish in Mexico City when Alex Gurney was fighting with Max Pappas. Fogarty said he had to walk away from the pit box. He had to go and take his driving suit off and just get away from it. He said it was too gut-wrenching. I couldn't even watch. So here we are, 12 months later, and he's in the middle of action again.
A lot of emotion, obviously. GTs are in. Chris.
Stevenson Pontiac into pit lane, going to be fueling tires for Robin Liddell. Mike Johnson also putting another bottle of water in the car for him. It's a bit of a warm afternoon out here, and also this air being very thin. Mike Johnson said it's going to be a bit of a stretch here on fuel, so the thing they've got to do is hope for another caution. Also, just try and be as easy as possible with the throttle. One thing these GT teams are saying is they're really trying to take care of their rear tires. Now, the Pontiac teams think they're in a little bit better position than the Porsche teams with that rear tire, but Robin Liddell stalling here coming out of pit lane.
Cost him a little bit of time there.
Just want to get back to a point that John Fogarty made. He said we made the wrong pit call. He's not referring to lap one. He's referring to the fact that when it went yellow, they tried to duck in before it went yellow. When it goes yellow, remember the pits are closed now under the new procedures. They came in and they had to roll all the way through. Hence, they've lost some track position here, and they're all the way back in 10th position, having had the lead. So a little bit of frustration. This next win is being tough to come by.
Not only were the hits between Ganassi and Gainesco a talking point, but there was a hit between Diego Alessi from Matt Connolly Motorsports and Nick Ham in the number 70 Mazda RX-8.
And that is clearly putting two cars in the same spot on the racetrack in an area that's so fast. Not an intentional thing there, I can tell you that. No way.
Well, earlier in the corner, we actually saw an onboard, and Alessi was alongside for a moment, and then Ham carried a bit more speed through the middle of the corner, and Diego was a little aggressive there. And you've got to realize the consequences. You touch a car, Dorsey, it's like being on an oval. You suddenly touch the rear end, you're going to turn them around in a heartbeat.
Speed Source boys have been working hard to fix it. Brian, what's Nick Ham's got to say?
Well, Nick Ham not very excited at all by those proceedings on the racetrack. Nick, they say whenever you leave the country, you got to be careful of the neighborhoods you go to, but you never thought you'd be assaulted down in the Peraltada, did you?
No, that's so disappointing. That's the same team that took me out in Utah, put me upside down, and I thought I was clear of him, and hit the corner before. He'd put four wheels off and held everybody up, and then he's fighting us through that corner. I don't know how many laps down he was. The guy's stupid. Just, you know, it's a lot of expense. We got a race next week in Virginia, and we were just in good position for a decent finish there, just taking our time.
2007 started out on such a good note. 2008, not quite so much the same,
now,
Chris.
That's a very good point.
Well, Memo Rojas had a great start to this race, handing over the lead to Scott Pruitt. But Memo, John Fogarty with some really strong words in an interview just a minute ago. What was it from your perspective?
Well, I really don't know his words. We had a close moment there. He got lucky with the traffic, and he was able to get a run on me on the exit. I just protected the inside. I don't know his words, so I can't really say anything back. But I'm happy the team's doing a great job. We don't know if their strategy is working for us, but we'll see it in the end.
Well, he did his job. He kept it out front. Now it's up to Pruitt.
And how special is this for Brumos Racing's Darren Law in his 100th Grand Am Rolex Series event? He leads the motor race.
One thing we know for sure is that the Brumos team didn't think they could get to the finish by pitting now, so that's why they've kept Darren out on the racetrack.
Matt Plummer's in second. Mamo Gidley is in the mix. Angelelli has already got past him, and Scott Pruitt is in the top five. Zonta is back there as well. Here comes Gurney weaving his way through the traffic. It is thick.
Great history here. His father Dan, of course, won here, Lee, back in '64 Formula One race. So his young son would like to get a repeat victory here, scene of their first one last year.
And boy, was that relief. And that's an understatement for Bob Stallings, for Kyle Brannon, for everyone at the Gainesco team. It was kind of like, whew, that monkey is now off our back.
This season has somewhat been like the '06 season that they had, where they had the pace but couldn't really bring it home, and now we're seeing a similar pattern.
On board with Oswaldo Negri Jr. Great result at Homestead, a podium there as he comes past one of the Banner Pontiacs. He is trying to chase down Mark Goosens for 7th place. Here's Matt Plum under pressure from Angelelli, and Angelelli around the outside in the Peraltada. 2 races, 2 crashes for SunTrust. They're gone, and so too is the Rum Bum Seagull Sport BMW.
Oh, why do you go side by side through there when you know the consequences? Calvin, it's like you said, it's so tight, and all you have to do is barely rub, and this is what they
We got to see that again, Dorsey, but it looked like Hugh really almost turned left. I mean, he didn't keep the tight line. I thought Angelelli was clear, and suddenly there was contact, and there didn't seem to... There's Wayne Taylor. He is devastated after the blow they took at Homestead, finishing 14th after the contact. And this will probably end their day with that hit.
That was a heavy hit for both cars, and we have a race meeting in 7 days' time. That Dallara is trashed.
This is another full-course caution. We'll know that. Let's look and see what did happen here. Concentrating like you said, Calvin.
I thought Angelelli was clear. When we see these pictures again, I thought he was clear, and there's a bit of a gap, and suddenly that left front nose of Plum.
Oh, it did look like it turned out. Maybe
he
lost
from that
grip.
angle. Or maybe Max did suddenly start to tighten down a little bit at the same time. Take a look here. This will be a good one.
It's hard to call that. I mean, you wouldn't intentionally bump someone in that corner because it's so fast.
Absolutely not. And Hugh is a very clean driver, so some other driver you'd say, well, that's the nature of their driving, but
you know what I think what we saw right there is coming out of the pit lane, a restart. I think he got tied to the inside here, and the car just lost grip.
Keep calling Matt Hugh. That's his brother who also races, so a little confusion all the way.
That was a big hit.
It did look like the front end stepped out, though, didn't it? Like it lost grip for a moment.
Brian?
Wayne Taylor looking on. Wayne, let's get to the important business first. Did you talk to Max on the radio? He okay in the car?
Yeah, Max is fine. He was having a problem with the airs or the cool suit, but he's fine. He's absolutely fine.
Now, you watched it on the replay on the big screen here, and I know you got a race meeting next week. There's a lot of cost involved with this, but when we think championship, just from what you've seen, what do you think you're going to do at VIR? Are you going to have a car?
We will have a car. SunTrust Racing will always be there, and this is really tough because we were in a really good position. The team did a bloody good job on the getting us out of the pits first. We didn't have the fastest car, but we had a real good team, and this is really disappointing. I don't have much to say.
Lost for words down here. Huge disappointment. They ran so well at Homestead. We know how that one turned out. And one more time, it seems like Lady Luck is bit here at SunTrust.
There is emotion overload here in Mexico today between the Gainesco team, the Ganassi team, now between SunTrust and Seagull Sport. And how about between Matt Connolly Motorsports and the Speed Source? There is high emotion here in Mexico. Round 3 of the 2008 Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, and this rather sizable Mexican crowd have already been treated to plenty of action, and that is an understatement. Let's take you back to some slow-mo replays. Angelelli on the right, Matt Plum on the inside in 7 on your left.
Watch the 7. It looks like it loses grip, and it comes over and hits, of course, Angelelli's 10 car. It could be cold tires. I don't know.
But he's down on the apron there, down inside the white line. If you're to the right of that white line, it's quite bumpy there, and you'll see the front end just slightly move over and tag Angelelli. Here we see it again. Car's coming to shot, a little bit late on trying to see the bump, but there's a bump down there on the inside, and I think that moved Matt's car up a little bit.
All right, let's hear from Angelelli.
You guys walking along with Max Angelelli right now, obviously unhappy about what's taking place on the racetrack. You guys running so well, Max. From your point of view, from the cockpit, what happened out there with Matt?
I was, as far as I saw it, I was in front of him, complete and overtaking. I was in the middle of the road, in the middle of the corner. I just felt a big hit in the back. What can I say? Hit in the back. If you look at my car, you see the mark in the rear, far rear back. So he lost the car of advantage. He should have given up.
Thanks for taking the time, Max. I talked to him a little bit when he got out of the car. He said, I'm not exactly sure what happened, guys. Perhaps he lost it when I went by. It doesn't matter. The result is the same.
You're talking about Wayne Taylor Racing, the SunTrust Dallara. They are championship winners. They are Rolex 24 winners. And at the moment, this is a nightmare start to 2008. Let's take you back to a race meeting ago as the Seagull Sport BMW is loaded onto the flatbed. Let's take you back to Homestead Miami Speedway because they were running second at the time. Take a look at this. Hit from behind again. This time round it was David Donahue who was very apologetic. He simply lost control, he told me today. Dropped a wheel off and it spun. It just swapped ends on him. And unfortunately, Michael Valiente in the car this time. Wrong place, wrong time.
And Calvin, you've had a season, I've had a season. Every race car driver has a season where things are out of your control, happen to you, like this particular instance, the one from Homestead. But it's devastating for this team because now they're way, way down with no chance of making these points up very quickly.
It's a big hole. We've seen teams do it before. Certainly the 99 team did it coming out of Daytona last year with very few points on the board. The 10 car, though, there's a lot more competition this year. It's going to be a tough road for them throughout the 08 season.
Well, coming into this round here in Mexico, they were 8th. Going to VIR next week, they will be out of the top 10. Today isn't the first day we've seen high emotion at Mexico City. Same corner as the big incident today. The Peraltada turned 7 and 8. Chris Bingham in the 40 over on the far side, and JC France in the Brumos Porsche. They're saying, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Yeah, how about a little bit of this? And the boys mix it up. They go toe-to-toe on the racetrack.
Some good punches thrown around there.
I've seen Lee do that on the golf course. Someone hits into him, he gets mad.
So we didn't quite get to this stage here today between Max Angelelli and Matt Plum, but it wasn't far away.
It was very close.
Not coming to an agreement as to what happened, and the quick dry is down. Let's go back, and we're going to show you another slow-mo. Here we go, boys. Talk through it. And coming into the Peraltada.
Plum to the inside, and then you see Angelelli start to come down, Dorsey. Plum goes down inside that white line, and then just watch there. It looks like the front takes a bit of a bump and then goes to the left.
You're absolutely right, Calvin. He was all the way to the inside of that white line. There was a bump. It lifted the front tire off the ground. It lost grip, went right into the side of Max Angelelli. And look at these two. It almost was on again because they were nose to nose. And I'm telling you what, we can't let you hear what they were saying, but we know what they were saying.
Yeah, there were some pretty harsh words exchanged, that's for sure. And it wasn't, I mean, you saw the 7 jump out there, and of course there was nothing intentional in that. It was just a racing accident and a very unfortunate one. Brian?
Down here with Gene Siegel. First of all, Gene, you guys had such a good weekend going. You talked to Matt on the radio. Is he okay?
Yeah, we spoke to Matt. He's okay. I just like to say that the Rumbum.com BMW was doing great. We had a great dine-in motor this weekend. Have Caramba Tequila bringing out their new drink. All our new sponsors are here. Lewis, Jen Bacardi. We're putting on such a good show. We went off of a different strategy than other people. I gave the car back. I was in second place. I gave the car to Matt. He got it back down to second. Everybody was racing hard, but unfortunately this is our second year in a row we get taken out by the SunTrust car. It's very unfortunate. Last year we were in second place. We get rear-ended by Magnussen. You know, today we got squeezed by Angelelli. There it goes. We're going to have to wait till Virginia.
We were talking about patience earlier, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that happening anywhere on the racetrack right now.
Well, you know, this is only our third race of the year, Brian. I mean, I know everybody's racing hard, but if you guys watch the replay, there's plenty of road to the left and no road to the right. I just wish the guy used his head every once in a while and gave us some room.
Boy, I tell you what, there's not going to be too many people here in this paddock enjoying some socializing after the event.
Well, he handled himself pretty well, I thought.
Yeah,
he did.
Very diplomatic, but you can read between the lines, that's for sure. Cleanup is almost complete. We'll go back to racing, and the man enjoying his 100th Rolex Series start, Darren Law, is the leader. A key endorser of that is Dorsey Schrader.
Brian Till has left more than a touch of grey, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
All right, we're back. If you've just joined us, welcome to Speed's continual coverage of round 3 of the Rolex Sports Car Series here at Autodromo, Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. It is our, It's our 4th visit here, 05, 06, 07, and now 08. There's been a variety of winners over the years. John Fogarty and Alex Gurney broke through last year. Scott Pruitt, Luis Diaz, that was a very popular victory in 2006, in 2005. Mamo Gidley and the man who's made headlines in Sprint Cup in recent times, Michael McDowell, were victorious in our initial visit to this circuit.
Well, what this crash does is it really seals the fate for anybody who was close on that make it under one stop situation. Now, they've been under caution quite a while, so everybody's going to be good. It really helps Ganassi's guys a lot.
Well, Dorsey, I checked in with all of those teams, 4th through 7th, Zonta, Goosens, Negri, and James, all saying they are fine on fuel. However, Pruitt up in 3rd. That team's saying that they might be having some fuel pickup problems. They should be good on fuel, but they just aren't thinking they're getting it all out of the tank. So a big question mark over the 01 right now. Now, also checking in with the 58, they kind of looked at me and said, you know what, we can't show you those cards right now. Obviously, Darren Law did not come in with the rest of that group, so I'm assuming that he cannot make it. Back in GT, 3rd place, Stevenson Pontiac, Mike Johnson saying, you know what, this caution's definitely helping us, but we're going to need a little bit more help.
Here's the running order at the moment. Darren Law leads the way from Mamo Gidley, so it's a Porsche-powered Riley up front from a Ford-powered Dallara. Great to see Mamo up there. Kevin Doran will be thrilled with that, but we've still got a long way to go. Then Scott Pruitt in a Lexus-powered Riley. Ricardo Zonta in the Pontiac-powered Lola. On pit road, the 07 for Banner Racing. Paul Edwards, Kelly Collins. Service complete and gone. I'll continue with that running order. Goosens is in the top 5. Negri is 6. James, Gurney, Vanderpool, and Joao Barbosa. Brian?
Just checked in with the 07. It was a routine stop, and they should definitely be good to go now. Fresh Pirelli tires for Paul Edwards and a full tank of fuel. They should be good to go to the end, but that's going to drop them back on that stop.
Remember, they are just 1 point out of the lead for the GT Championship. The Banner Racing boys back in 3rd, I correct myself, back in 3rd in the championship, pressing hard.
Just checked in with Bill Auberland down at the Ruby Tuesday Championship Racing Team. He said they made some aero changes to that car before the race. It was actually handling quite well, but they had a stop that was really kind of discombobulated down here. Bill, right behind that big accident between the 7 car and the 10 car there in the Peraltada, he dove immediately to pit lane. They were only 3 laps from their fuel window. So he said, hey, we can go get in, get this service done. Everybody else will have to wait to the full course caution. We'll pick up track position. So Bill really thinking in the car. The problem was no one on pit lane was ready for that stop. Joey Hand had to get his helmet on, get suited up. The crew was unprepared, so the stop took a long time. But the good news is, if there is any, Joey Hand has a much better number 23 Porsche Crawford than they did for the last couple of days.
And they had that great result of the podium at Homestead through strategy. Remember Laguna Seca last year? They won through good strategy. Alex Job and his men are not afraid to roll the dice.
Unfortunately, no lucky dog this year, otherwise he'd have been waved around as the first car a lap down.
Ronnie Fellows is the new GT leader over Robin Liddell. And Craig Stone in the 30, Racer's Edge Mazda RX-8. We are getting ready to go racing after quite an elongated caution period. Green flag flies here in Mexico. Darren Law is your leader. What has Gidley got for him? The bright yellow Ford-powered Dallara, 3rd car in shot.
Watch Pruitt there in the blue and white Telmex machine. He looks to the inside. He's got to get in the groove. Remember, he was just in a NASCAR a couple of hours ago, Dorsey. It has to be a transition for him.
Goosens around the outside of Zonta. Does he squeeze through? Yes, he does. There's a slight rub. Zonta goes high on the ripple strip, and that exposes him to Negri. Oz has got a run here. 2 Brazilians going at it.
Zonta was very clean there. He could have forced the issue and taken both of those cars out. He chose not to. He gets taken advantage of by Negri.
Through on the inside. Here comes Ian James as well. The Mike Shank Racing Fords are performing well here. Don't forget about Gurney, and there's Eric Vanderpool behind. So a good, strong showing from both Krone Lolas, the Proto Auto machines.
They're starting to find their way. They're trying to find the downforce window, what gives them the handling, yet doesn't cost them too much straightaway speed, and they're really starting to inch up on it in terms of performance.
Pruitt is still pressing hard on Mamo Gidley. There's a mad scramble and scrap going on here. Gurney's at the back of this group of 4. And Joey Hand right in the mix as well. Into the Peraltada, the scene of the crime. It's all cleared up and clean now. And while these guys are scrapping, Darren Law is getting away.
Here comes Pruitt. He'll try and draft on both of these cars and make a move down into turn 1. Is he close enough?
Well, they're moving to the inside, so it's going to be impossible to get 3 wide.
Look at that Ford power in the draft, obviously, behind Joey Hand. Tremendous straightaway speed with Gidley.
And Mamo is really enjoying this new package. The Ford-powered Dallara.
Scotty, you got to be careful.
They definitely got contact. The 23 gets the worst of it, goes around Joey Hand. I saw the winglets flying, Calvin. I saw carbon fiber shards going, and of course it's the winglets that attach to the front of the car. Downforce will be diminished.
Pruitt very aggressive. In fact, what it may do, Dorsey, when you lose those louvers, it allows the air to get out from the front of the car a little bit better and pins the nose better. So he may not be suffering too bad. It depends what balance he had in the car to begin with, but this is devastating for the Ruby Tuesday boys. They wanted a strong run here. They realized they didn't have a good car, but trying to use strategy to get to the front of the pack. Pruitt has been very aggressive in these early races. Even with the championship lead at Homestead, we saw him forcing the issue. As we got to a restart, he did the same thing here.
No team in the Daytona prototype era has won the opening 3 races of a season. Pruitt and Rojas are trying to do that. Damage on the front left. Here's the replay. This is the reason why.
And Pruitt up on the curb gets into the corner of Joey Hand. Joey's problem is he spun the car, but he killed the engine, and it's not refiring. Here's a better look at it. And look at the damage to Pruitt's car. It's got the left front fender broken. He's left the louvers at the top.
That brake could be an issue, and that's kind of where he lost the race in the Busch race here last year to his teammate Montoya, remember? Similar situation, battling down into turn 1.
Now, Joey Hand did a good job of locking that car down, Calvin, but it won't refire. But on top of that, once it gets refired, I'm relatively sure that he's flat spotted. All 4. He'll have to come get tires.
Had a big moment on Thursday, Joey Hand, where he did flat spot tires in a massive spin. That was a very un-Scott Pruitt-like move.
He has been aggressive though, Lee, and one thing that the Riley bodywork has, they just switched to the newer, has a much stronger setup on the front end of that car. It doesn't destroy the splitter as easily, so that may work in his favor at this point.
Cal just checked in with Tim Keene over here at Telmex, and he said, Scott's saying nothing about the handling of the car right now. The team's biggest concern is that bodywork flapping around could potentially cut that front left tire, so they're keeping a good eye on that. They also said, you know, the Ruby Tuesday car, you know, maybe Scott was being aggressive, but really, he shouldn't have been there.
Well, those louvers being gone, Calvin, will disrupt airflow, and that flopping bodywork will fly off here soon.
Yeah, with it broken now, Dorsey, when you just lose that panel, you'll actually gain downforce in the front. Otherwise, the teams would not run any, you know, louvers at all. But here we see it. How much of a factor will this be? This is the championship leader we're talking about. Remember, Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas going for their 3rd straight victory. Will it come here in front of the home crowd for Memo?
Darren Law, Memo Gidley, Scott Pruitt on the inside into 1. He's not close enough. And guess who's got a very interesting vantage point? The Goose. Mark Goosens is there in the silver machine for Riley Matthews Racing. And don't discount the green machine of Ricardo Zonta. We're back, and the pressure is intensifying on Darren Law. A little hiccup through turn 1. That's allowed Gidley to get closer. Pruitt's hanging in there. Goosens is there, and Ryan Dial has spun. And I would say that he got a little help down there in the first corner. He is in 12th position on the lead lap. That's a great comeback from the Scotsman. And look at the back of this pack. The green machine of Zonta, he is looming. Speaking of Crone Racing, Colin Brown, we congratulate. He won the pole for tomorrow's NASCAR Nationwide Series. Of course, Colin was outstanding here last year. All right, let's take you back and see what happened to Ryan Dial in the 2 for Samax Racing.
Oh, he just gets pitched down.
And on the inside of the Gardell there, they're debuting that Dallara chassis. He and Bert Frizzell been very strong in practice. Good qualifying one. Pruitt to the inside. Can he make it stick? He does. Slices into 2nd, and we do believe that Darren Law will need fuel. Is that going to allow Pruitt to take his 3rd win of the season? A long way to go, though.
Question is that body work, too, isn't it? I mean, every lap down that front straightaway at 170 miles per hour, that whole left front fender is getting weaker and weaker.
And the Dallara is hanging in there nicely. Goosens is mounting a challenge and makes the move, executes it nicely, very clean, very slick. Let's see what Kevin Doran thinks of Memo Gidley's progress.
Kevin Doran watching, interestingly, the progress up towards the front for a while, Kevin, but seems to be slipping back a little bit. Memo saying anything on the radio?
No, I think he's just driving pretty hard right now, trying to keep what we can keep out of this deal. We're not quite quick enough, but a lot better than we have been. So,
as this weather's changing, is that going to bring the car back to you guys? Is it going to help?
It could. You know, it's cooling off a lot. The track was 134 degrees just 10 minutes ago, so it could come back. We'll see.
Weather's changing. Kevin Doran keeping progress of his driver. They are down in the 0-1 pit as well, Chris.
Well, Chip Ganassi has had a chance to see our replay on the contact between the 0-1 and the 23. Chip, your thoughts on that contact?
I'll tell you what, if I was the 23 driver, I'd be pretty mad. I think that was, I feel bad. You know, like I think that was uncalled for. I saw that move a year ago in the Busch race, and Pruitt was on the other end of that, and I think that's a pretty low percentage move.
Well, I know we're looking at that body work up front. How much concern is that flapping around?
Well, it's obviously not making our car any faster, but Scott does seem to have a pretty good car right now. Let's hope he can get it to the finish.
Well, they can get it to the finish, but Pruitt's already got it up front. But we got to also pay attention to that fuel problem. Can they pick up all the fuel out of that Lexus Riley?
And watch the silver car third. It is in a very positive position. New race leader is Scott Pruitt. Good move on Darren Law. But what can Goossens do? Scott Pruitt has just about driven everything that you can. So too is Mark Goossens. The Belgian driver is highly accomplished, truly an international driver. F3, F3000, FIA GT, Le Mans Series, Le Mans 24-hour, Daytona 24-hour, everything you can imagine. And he's also done some stock car stuff here in the United States.
Such a laid-back guy, and he's on the same fuel strategy as Pruitt. They both pitted 17 laps ago, which is 20 laps more fuel in the tank than Darren Lawhouse, who currently runs in second. So it's got to be a big question mark for that 58 machine, whether Darren Law has enough gas in the tank to get it to the finish, literally.
And guys, don't count out Ricardo Zonta right there in the green car. He's right there pressuring Goossens. I mean, he is a competent driver as well, capable of winning this race.
Competent. He is super fast. I mean, he has so much experience, Dawes, as you know. Formula One, sports cars with Mercedes. Here comes Goossens to the inside, Lee.
Brakes, brakes, brakes.
Oh, no.
And there's a little bit of contact, but they both pull it up. Zonta could be the big winner here. The gap closed. He thought he had an option there on Goossens.
Did you see him pounce? When he saw the opportunity, he almost stuck it right where he needed to get it.
You know what he told me yesterday? He's been racing for the last 2 years in Brazilian stock cars. He himself is a team owner. He said, about the best I can do is 12th. Those guys down there are savage. They just beat each other up, and they pick on me because I'm a Formula One driver. He said, but it sharpened my elbows for the Rolex series. I love it.
He has been very clean. We saw he and Goossens go side by side before, and he gave it up. Doing the same thing here. They just want to get a good solid result with this new Lola chassis. Remember, they ran the Riley at Daytona, didn't feel that the Lola had enough miles on it to be ensured that it would go 24 hours. But now they're really starting to find their way, and they have some more testing planned. A couple of half days at Road Atlanta in the near future.
After that early spin, just an update on the the Samax BMW Riley, that Ryan Dial has stopped and is out of the car. So an unfortunate end to a very strong run. He'd got himself back on the lead lap and was climbing up the order until that moment.
You know, Zonta could have taken him out there if he put that in, if he'd stuck the car in there.
All right, this feud has settled down somewhat. Let's talk GT. And Stevenson Motorsports leads this race. Robin Liddell is doing a great job, and the car looks strong. It's clean. They didn't have the homestead they wanted to, Chris, but boy, Mexico's going beautifully.
Well, Mike Johnson sitting atop the war wagon chewing on his fingernails like Wayne Taylor does. He's saying, you know what, we still don't know if we can go all the way. Right now, Robin is leaning that motor out, lifting early, getting back into the throttle nice and easy. So he's trying to make that car last all the way to the finish on the fuel. Also taking care of those rear tires at this point in time. He doesn't have anybody pressuring him, and that was one of the concerns of the GT cars, is where they're going to be burning off those rear tires. But right now, Robin Liddell taking it easy on the 57, hoping to make it to the finish.
Well, Ronnie Fellows actually has 21 laps less fuel in his tank, so he's going to be really struggling. I believe that the 06 will need to pit, certainly, which will give Robin Liddell a big gap back to the next car in line, which will be Dirk Werner.
Just checked in with the 06 team. You're exactly right, Calvin. I said, is there enough fuel in that thing? And they just laughed. So, no, I don't think they're going to be able to make it. But I did check in with Farnbacher Lowles on the 87 Dirk Werner. They said, we've got enough fuel. We think there'll be enough tires on the car by the end of it. The question is, do we have enough time to get there?
And we will follow their progress. Jeff Siegel is still in the mix. Let's not forget about the 69 Speed Source car. Here is Dirk Werner, the defending GT Series champion, and running strong. Without his regular co-driver Dominic Farnbacher, he's on American Le Mans Series duty in Long Beach today, so that's why he has the very fast Pierre Caffer with him. What a lineup this is. It could go their way, and we could very well have our third different winner. No disrespect to the two Pontiacs that are in front of him, but we know what the fuel situation is with those guys. Werner could be our third different winner in as many races in GT.
Werner has 7 laps more fuel than the current leader, Robin Liddell. That will be handy.
On board the 66 Marquis Jet TRG Porsche, Ted Ballou started the race. Bryce Miller, who incidentally was Werner's teammate last year, almost got the championship with Werner because they didn't run at the Rolex 24 and that staggered their points. That was a little bit of a pill to swallow for Bryce, but nonetheless he did enjoy victory last year. He is running in 6th, 7th in class. Good strong run, good comeback from further down the order in this class. Brian?
Kevin Buckler calling the shots today. Don't forget, guys, he also has a NASCAR truck team. But Kevin, I know the day hadn't worked out exactly the way you wanted, but 2 Porsches in the top 10. If you can roll these cars out of here with top 10 finishes and get to VIR, is that not a victory in itself?
Yeah, you know, we don't do this very often. We struggled a little bit on the setup. We've been trying a lot of stuff on the cars in this off-season part, and we missed it a little bit on 66 and 67. You know, I told the guys, take what you got, put it in the bank, take the points, get to the next race. But they're both driving great right now with what they got. The cars are fine. We're just a little off the pace.
It's far from over. We can still pick up more positions here for TRG. And remember, we talked at the beginning of the show, it's about consistency. That seems to be what wins these championships.
See the Daytona prototype slicing past the 67 machine, and Pruitt is now feeling the heat from Gooseman. He got a lap 7/10 faster than the leader, Scott Pruitt, on that last lap, and he's really narrowed that gap down. Pruitt is going to be feeling the pressure as he tries to go through this GT traffic ahead of him.
Interesting footnote. In Porsches, of course, they had a lot of success here in Pontiac's TRG, but in Porsches, TRG has never really had a good run here. Coming through the traffic, look at Zonta on Darren Law. Then we get back here. Gurney's trying to make a move on Gidley. Lots of individual battles, and now Goossens has a good, clear view of Scott Pruitt.
Of course, that's all working through the GT lead there, too, so both classes really mixing it up. Spencer Pumpelly did a great job of not getting in the way of those lead cars.
And these other drivers in the series don't know much about Ricardo Zonta. When you race season in, season out against your competitors, you know their traits. They don't know how aggressive Ricardo Zonta is right now, as this only being race 3. Did Sonoma last year to get his feet wet, and the team loves him. He has a lot of great relationships going back through the years with Jeff Hazel, David Brown, the engineer, certainly. So they know what this man can do. He is ultra fast.
The 58 car there, Dorse, need a good finish. They've had a nightmare start to the year with a 13th and a 19th. That is not Brumos style.
No, but they've run goodly. I mean, their finishing results haven't been good, but their qualifying's been good. They've been really quick this year. They just need to pull the team together and make the finish good.
Just need a little bit of luck. They just need a change in momentum. I mean, they have the speed, as you said, Dorsey, in qualifying. In the race, they've been a factor, too. I mean, David admitted he made a slight mistake going down into turn 1, got a little bit deep, then run into the dirt, and that lost the car, and he couldn't believe how quickly it snapped around on him and ultimately taken out Valiente.
That was a very unfortunate situation. You know, a driver of David's caliber, he said it was best himself. I'm embarrassed that happened, you know.
This is Paul Edwards, and he is currently 4th in class, in the GT class.
He has a great record here, 1 in 05, 1 in 06, and his teammate Kelly Collins was literally attacked by Leighton Reese last year, and they rebounded for a podium finish, so they know what makes it work around this place.
We're talking a lot about Pontiac GXPRs. That's because there's so many in the field. There's 5 here this weekend. They're rivaling the Porsche numbers, and Lawson Aschenbach at the moment, he's chasing the championship leader, Spencer Pumpelly. Chris?
Well, the Auto House team is really cutting their teeth with Rolex competition this year. They haven't had the best luck, a lot like Stevenson. Problem here today, broken throttle spring, an extended pit stop, so he is way back in 9th right now. But this little part right here, not more than a couple bucks. All the money these guys spend all season, nothing but like a little couple bucks to take you out of a race.
Crazy, isn't it? So Lawson continues to run in the top 10 in GT here in Mexico, but overall it's Scott Pruitt trying for 3 in a row. Quick reminder that next Saturday the toughest trucks on earth head to the open plains of Kansas. Don't miss it. It's the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series live here on Speed next Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That's NASCAR here on Speed. Welcome back, Mexico City. We're talking sports cars here on Speed. And that is the championship leader, Spencer Pumpelly, we were just riding with. Let's go back up the front of the field. And we're definitely in the latter half of this one. Scott Pruitt is poised to bring up 3 in a row, but we've still got a bit of time left. Can Mark Goossens for Riley Matthews do anything about it?
Last lap by, he was 0.2 of a lap faster without traffic, so that's an indicator at this stage of the game, Dorsey.
Let's bring you back and show you how Scott Pruitt got into the lead. First of all, it was a move on Mamo Gidley.
That's around the inside again, where the two big crashes in this race so far have both happened.
Then down into turn one, and he gets by Darren Law cleanly. And Goosens was ready to pounce as well. So they are the two key moves that got Pruitt into the front, and he has a very busy weekend. NASCAR Nationwide Series here tomorrow, and he joins fellow current and former drivers of the Grand Am Rolex Series, Colin Brown, who's on the pole. We mentioned that earlier. Adrian Fernandez is flying over from Long Beach to jump in the car. Max Pappas is here, Patrick Carpentier, and Big Boris Said, all running in tomorrow's nationwide race.
Well, back in third place there, Ricardo Zonta, who we were watching before, finally got around Darren Law, but I just picked up on something, and that's this. Remember we talked about the high altitude here and that the cars run hot? In the front of Zonta's car is a big piece of paper right now. It's right in his grill, and it might affect the outcome of whether or not he can continue on without getting it removed.
Well, guys, as the 91 and the 01 are starting to battle, remember back to the aerodynamics. The 01 running a lot of downforce this weekend, the 91 running very trim. So those cars probably better at different parts of the racetrack. Also checked in on the 91 on that heat issue we saw earlier. I looked at the computers, and the engine bay temperature is up in the red, where the engine water temperature is in the yellow. I asked Bill Riley any concerns about that right now. He said, not right now, because he was just running behind Darren Law. I think once he gets a little bit of air, that temperature is going to come down, but right now the 91 running hot. Also just took a look at the 76, Dorsey. You were talking about something up on the grill there. Looked at their computers. The engine temps on that car are fine.
And if you've noticed in the background of a couple of those shots, Gurney is coming. He's got by Darren Law, and last time round was the fastest car on the track. There is the red Bob Stallings Gainsco Auto Insurance car. Big weekend. They've gone back to their Mexican colors, the victorious colors that helped them with their breakthrough win here 12 months ago. And Gurney is really turning some very impressive lap times.
Boy, he's running down Zonta in a hurry, isn't he? I mean, you can see the difference going away.
Zonta's quick too, though. Both he and Gurney were faster than the leaders on the last lap. Zonta ran a 20.9, Gurney 20.7, the leader's 21 plus.
Talked to the Gainsco crew a little while ago. 99 car definitely good on fuel to the end. Weather changing down here right now too. Big cloud cover coming over. You got to believe that the racetrack is really getting slick as the 58 comes to pit road for what will be his final stop. We know the 99 likes to run high downforce, and that slick racetrack right now and that high downforce may be just what the doctor ordered for the 99, Chris.
Well, David Donahue was playing very coy with us on the fuel situation of the 58. Obviously now they could not make it all the way. This team really poised to break through and grab a win. Last year at Sonoma, it looked like Donahue was going to do it when the 99 squeezed through on just the last lap there. And then at Homestead, another strong race, and then Donahue lost it there. So this team, not a good strategy call early on by not taking that pit stop, and that's at this point in time, it's not the driving or the speed of the car. They just need to try and get a whole combination right.
I have to think the reason they didn't take that earlier pit stop was they didn't believe they could get to the end.
Yeah, it was too early.
It was too early for them. They were just outside their window. Here we see traffic. The leader's coming up on the 23 car. He's not going to give Pruitt any favors.
This is Joey Hand in front of Scott Pruitt. This is helping Goosens big time. He is right there with Pruitt now for the lead of the race. Into the Peraltada. Now Goosens gets a little balked by the 23 Ruby Tuesday Porsche, and Pruitt has been able to escape.
Well, Joey's pretty clean there. He had to be angry after that punt down in turn one, but he didn't cause any problems for Pruitt there, Dorsey. You would not have done the same, I know.
I know he was thinking about doing something. I could read it. Man, there was smoke coming out of his helmet there. Oh, I got you now. Here's a payback.
You remember that great line from Smokey and the Bandit? You can do it. No, you can think about it, but just don't do it.
He was thinking about it. Trust
me. I like
me.
that movie.
I love that movie.
Now here's more traffic. Look once again.
Yeah. Goose, can he get on the power early enough? Tough to pass into this next corner, though. It's very light on the braking there. The right front corner wants to lock up. If you push your braking, here comes Gurney. Zonta sees him, moves to the inside.
Boy, but Gurney's got some speed, doesn't he? Look at it.
Well, and guess what? This is the team that he was battling with last year. Pappas was in the Crone car when Alex Gurney was turning on at the late period in the race. Now Zonta gets held up here a little bit. The Matt Connolly GTO stays out of the way. Gurney's looking for an opportunity.
Just because that GTO is there, though, it tightened the lineup for all three of these guys.
They can't disappear, Dorsey, as you know. They're fighting the car, trying to get through there. Whoa, Zonta's loose. Loses grip. Gurney cannot take advantage of it.
He stepped out pretty good there. I think Gurney had to get out of the throttle to keep in case something did go wrong.
This is the fight for third, and in only its second race, the Proto Auto Lola could be on the podium. It's highly unlikely just with the momentum that Gurney has got.
Alex told me this morning, he said the problem this year is with the Pirelli tyre, the little balls of rubber, the little marbles. Here we have a battle for the lead.
Goossens pressuring Pruitt big time. Pruitt hugs the inside down into turn one, makes Goossens go the long way, and he does. It's a braking duel. Great driving, Mark Goossens.
Around the outside, that was awesome.
Not too many people can go around the outside of Scott Pruitt. That was a classy move.
When you take the inside line, Dorsey, you have to slow it down a little bit more. Mark swung to the outside and just swept around there. Pruitt didn't try to defend, kept it clean at that point.
You know, Mark really had a good draft going. He popped to the outside, which means he's turning the car less for the corner. It's really the quicker way around.
Pruitt's hooked up there. Look at the front end grip. He has to tuck that car in. Talking about that bodywork damage. The front of the nose, basically, with a closed car like this that gets air underneath and lifts the front of the car. So when you take those louvers away on Pruitt's car, it lets the air escape and pins the nose more.
Watch this pass one more time. It was slick. What a sophisticated move. Out of the draft and says, you're going to force me to go the long way? I will.
But he used the draft. He stayed there to the very last moment to go to the outside like he did, and he had the momentum. Pruitt let him have it, too, for that matter.
He made me think a championship at this point. Realises his closest pursuer in the championship. Gurney and Fogarty are sitting back there, currently in fourth. Be a good points day for Pruitt.
The interesting thing, that is Mark Goossens' girlfriend. The interesting thing, a lot of the Pontiac teams have been saying they're underpowered. Doesn't look like it. We welcome you back to Speed's continual coverage of round 3 of the Grand Am Rolex Series. This is the Mexico City 250. Boy, it has been eventful, to say the least. Crashes, confrontation, and plenty of hot tempers. This is 06. This is Ron Fellows, currently second in GT. He's behind another Pontiac driver, Robin Liddell. But this is the battle for third, and yes, more contact coming out of the Peraltada between Dirk Werner and Paul Edwards. Now, there's question marks over the fuel for Liddell and Fellows, so is this effectively for the lead of GT?
It certainly could be. I have to believe Fellows needs to pee. He's got 49 laps on this stint since he last pitted for fuel, and here we come down into turn 1, later on the brakes, Dors.
And Paul Edwards did a great job. Outbraking a portion of that Pontiac is pretty impressive. They bumped in the middle of this corner, and then, here we go, we'll get a good view here.
Dirk uses all of the road. Edwards wasn't having any arm at Dorsey.
No, he was not. That's the same thing we've seen all this. I don't know if it's something in the air or the water here. I know the water affected me pretty badly.
Thanks for sharing, Dors.
Hey, you've hung in there well, both of you. Calvin and Dorsey have not been feeling too well, so too Chris Neville. So all three of you have hung in there nicely. Brian, it's just you and I. We've got iron guts, obviously.
All I can say is thank God for commercial breaks.
That's because I grew up in Texas, Lee. You know, I just checked in with Kelly Collins. He said it's going to be very, very close with those guys on fuel. The 87 guys still say that they are good to go. Kevin Buckler just told me he thinks they're all going to run out and they're in the perfect position, Chris.
Really?
Well, I was with Mike Johnson when that passed from the 07 on the 87, and he really gritted his teeth because he was watching Paul Edwards stuck behind Dirk Werner out there, and he was saying, this is perfect, this is what we want, because Robin can take it easy on fuel. The 07 is really the fastest GT car out there, and this is allowing Robin to just really take it easy, be fuel efficient, but now with Paul Edwards coming, he's telling Robin Liddell, it might be time to heat it up here, and the big question mark is still, can we make the distance?
I think Kevin has a problem because Edwards and Werner pitted on the same lap as his car, so unless the Porsche's getting much better mileage in his hands as opposed to Werner, I don't see how he has an advantage at this point.
Riding with Spencer Pumpelly, the GT points leader. You know, it's only the second time, only 2 times previous to this, that Spencer has driven a full season with the same team, same car, same setup. So he's loving this familiarity. He and Tim George Jr. are doing a nice job. This is with Aschenbach, and he's pressuring hard. He's really pressuring Bryce Miller in the 66 TRG Porsche. Inside of the Peraltada. Pontiac versus Porsche.
This is another one of the drivers who's had a bit of a stomach bug here this weekend, hasn't been feeling on top form. But Dorsey, when you're sick and you get inside a race car, you get that adrenaline going. It's amazing what you can achieve still.
It's probably the best healer. Once you get there and you get focused in on what your job is, you don't feel anything anymore. You know, just forget about it all. Then tonight will be a different story.
On that cool down lap is a different story.
This is the battle for 5th, 6th in class. Still Robin Liddell, Ron Fellows, Paul Edwards and Dirk Werner. Jeff Siegel holds down that top 5 position for Speed Source, the sole remaining Speed Source Mazda. That's a great effort in the 69 car. Then it's this trio of Miller, Aschenbach and Pumpelly. Overall, look at Zonta. He has come back. Pruitt is now pressuring Goossens. And what has happened to Gurney? He's just dropped off the pace, and all of a sudden Zonta is in with a shot for a podium and maybe even a win in the Krone Lola.
Well, we talked about downforce, Dorsey, in terms of if you don't have enough, it's going to wear these tyres out, and it seems in the later stages that Ricardo Zonta is coming on strong in that Lola. We talked about it being a high downforce car, but they started to trim out. Pruitt looks to the inside. Goossens has the line.
Chris?
Well, the Swede is ice face down here right now, watching his teammate out there. Now, Nick, this car very early in its development. You surprised that the Lola is going so well?
Well, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, but they also have a very good car down in Homestead in race trim. You know, we're not quite there as far as, one lap yet in qualifying, but I think we have a very good car in race trim, and that's showing right now. So let's see, who's be able to save the tires towards the end there. It seems like the top 4 cars running pretty much identical lap times right now, so it's about who, will wait the longest to really push for, for the win.
The team had the chance to go to GM's performance facility in Detroit, get it on the 7-post rig after Homestead. How important was that?
Very important, since, we are way behind everybody else with the Rileys and stuff as far as development. That, gave us a very good, understanding for what we have to do in race trim and stuff. So that hopefully going to pay off here today.
Well, last night at dinner, Nick Janssen was telling me, I know Riley's got a 7-post rig in their facility. Boy, I sure wish we had one too.
Williams Formula One won here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez 3 times, and Jeff and David Brown from Krone Racing were formerly with Williams Formula One. Great brains, great workers, great engineers, and they're behind this green machine, propelling Ricardo Zonta to a podium here in only its 2nd appearance. Remember, the timeline for this car, it tested at Daytona earlier in the year. It wasn't ready. They were horribly slow. They said, we're not going to risk running it at the Rolex 24. They went back to the Riley, then debuted the Lola at Homestead.
Guys, we had seen some wisps of smoke out of the back of the 99 car. I just checked in with Bob Stallings. He said, we haven't seen those on the broadcast. We haven't been looking that closely, but we don't see anything on the telemetry, so that's good news. Also remember that there is a technical partnership between the 99 and the 91, so they share information back and forth. Alex Gurney working his way to the front right now, and with some time to go, you wonder if he can become a part of that battle.
See there on the left rear corner that the side fence is missing on the bodywork. That gives you a little bit of downforce, which will change the balance with that being gone, Dorsey. So there's been a lot of argy-bargies, we call it here today, and the bodywork, the cars are not pristine by any stretch.
That's been gone for a while. I noticed that earlier on too, and we know Pruitt's lost the front end, the little wing plates. I wonder also if Goossens' car, the 91, is not just sort of the dirty air coming off the wing, doesn't affect Pruitt's car with that hole in the front end.
22 laps to go. Can Goossens hang on?
Oh, Pruitt's tight. He's real close. He will pick up the draft. He'll definitely be in position this lap, Dorsey.
And he might bring Zonta with him. He's looking at it anyway.
Last time round, Goossens locked it up going down into 1. Look at this battle. Both Riley cars, the Lexus power for Ganassi, the Pontiac power for Riley Matthews up front. Nice and clean that time through.
Doesn't get more even than that, does it, Calvin? I mean, that was dead on.
Looks like that Lola really changes direction very well. He's running a tighter line coming out of 1, gives him a good shot through 3. Ultimately, it's a very much a rhythm section there. You have to compromise one corner to take advantage in the next.
Here comes Alex. Gurney has got some momentum again. He's coming back. Last time round, he was way faster than these boys. They're slowing each other up. Gurney posted a 1:20.8. He is suddenly in the mix again.
He talked about the fact that this year he's really strong. I tried to get to this point a little bit earlier, but they actually got fraught up front. He said you can't go offline through the S's, even on the GT traffic. It's dangerous. I think that's why he's tread very carefully through that GT traffic. Now he's caught the pack again.
Well, you guys would talk so much about the bodywork on the front of the 01 and how it changes that aerodynamic balance, and Pruitt confirming it over the radio that it's really pinning the nose on the car, and as it's doing that, it's wearing the rear tires. So right now, Pruitt having a difficult time getting off the slower corners.
You know, I'm not too sure that Alex Gurney didn't play a really smart hand and back out away from these guys.
Just rest,
let things cool down, get his tires back underneath him, and mount this attack, because right now, he is the quickest of the 4.
Kyle Chura is the race engineer, 3 times a championship winning race engineer. He knows how to play the game. There is Chip Ganassi. He knows how to play the game as well. Busy weekend for Chip racing here in the Rolex Series, the Nationwide Series tomorrow, and of course his IndyCar organisation, Mike Hull, is down with the boys in Motegi in Japan. So racing all over the world this weekend for Ganassi.
Look at this, everyone just kind of feeling each other out. We've still got 20 laps to run. There's a long way to go in this race.
I think that's exactly what they're doing, Calvin. Everybody's got back settled into a pace to save their tires so they have something at the end. Long way to go.
This is good nose to tail stuff.
This reminds me of old Trans Am stuff. You sit in a pack like this and you look at each other and you feel each other around for a while, and then you wait for the laps to run down and attack.
If you're in the middle like Pruitt and Zonta, are you looking behind as much as you're looking forward?
Well, you got to watch for Gurney back there because he came out of nowhere. I mean, he was gone for a while, then I look up and he's on my rearview mirror again, so there's something going on back there I need to know. Pretty much, though, what you do is you run in a pack like this and you look for a weakness and think about it each lap so maybe you can make a pounce.
But for Zonta, when Gurney just appears from nowhere, does that make you a little more paranoid? You start watching your mirror more?
Yeah, I mean, you look up and the guy's way behind you one lap, and the next time you look up, he's right all over you. So you know something's going on.
This quartet have pulled away. They've left the others behind. Gidley still is in the top 5. Negri is 6. Ian James is 7th. So both Mike Shank Fords, 6 and 7. Joao Barbosa has done a great job clawing his way up into 8th. Gabriel Gardel in that new Doran Dallara, he's in 9th. And Eric Vanderpool in the 2nd Krone Lola is in the 10.
Mark Goosen's doing a great job leading this event right now. Bill Riley looking on. Bill, what kind of a car does Mark have underneath him right now? Has he said anything on the radio?
No, he's been pretty quiet, and I've been talking to him. He likes it very quiet. I think the car is really good. Both sway bars are in the middle position, which means the car is handling just fine.
All right, there's probably nobody better on pit lane to talk about how the 01 car is handling than you. You know this car very well. That bodywork damage that Scott Pruitt has right now, what's it doing to his car?
Probably not affecting it too much on this track because they're already in high downforce mode. If they're in low drag, it would have been a big issue, but since they're already high downforce, it should be not affecting that much.
Your engine temperature, is everything okay back in the engine compartment for you guys?
We're running a little hot. We'll be okay.
Playing poker with Bill Riley down here in pit lane, Mexico City.
There is nothing in this. Mark Goosen, Scott Pruitt, Ricardo Zonta, Alex Gurney. What great names in motorsport. What great names now, part of the Grand Am Rolex Series. Who will win this one? Inside 20 laps, 18 in fact to go. And this, you just get the feeling it's going to be a thrilling finish. Goosen's, of course, he and Jim Matthews finished off the year beautifully, didn't they? To memory, was Ryan Hunter-Ray there as well in the Sunchaser 1000 when they won in Utah? Can they pull up their second victory in Daytona Prototypes? That man there hopes not. Just an example, a small example of the action we've come to expect and enjoy within the Grand Am Rolex Series. Here comes Pruitt, Zonta whipping through on the inside of Lawson Aschenbach, who was trying to get by Bryce Miller, and that's just bought Miller some time. He leaves the gap for those guys to get through, but this is hampering Gurney. He's back behind. He's trying to get by the Pontiac.
He is absolutely stuffed, and he said you cannot afford to go offline through these S's. It's just a disaster waiting to happen, so he's got caught out big time here.
He was the odd man out. Everybody else made it through clear before the S's started, but once he got there, there was no way.
On board with Miller. Now, while we were away, Ron Fellows did pit. There goes Gurney now, finally gets by these guys. Ron Fellows did have to pit for fuel, so he's now dropped to 2, 4, 6, about 9th or 10th position in GT. So he's fallen out of the front running. So it's Liddell and Edwards. It's still a Pontiac 1-2. Then Dirk Werner is 3rd. Jeff Siegel for Speed Source is 4th. And Bryce Miller, who we ride with now in the Marquis Jet 66, is in the top 5. A much-needed result for 66 here.
Wow.
This is not for position. 21 is a few laps down.
This is Diego Alessi. This car has been in the middle of a few too many things today.
And not over yet, maybe.
Car's been quick this year, though, Lee.
Yeah. Well, it's the old GTO-R. The car was so successful before the new GX-PR from Pontiac. And Pontiac, Zonta locks up.
Good save there, though. Did a really good job of modulating. Get off the brake. and getting the car to turn around the outside of Pruitt.
Memories of Pappas last year when Gurney got around.
All too familiar. Now look at the gap between first and second. During the commercial break, Scott Pruitt had a couple of bobbles. Car stepped out on him once or twice, Dawes.
Well, we're talking about Scott called in and said, with this hole in my fender, a crash here. It's pinning my nose down and I'm getting loose at the back. This is the 16.
It's the Spaniard, that is Antonio Garcia, in the Crown Royal cask number 16. So
fire at the back is nothing but unburnt fuel and exhaust. Once the engine fires, that'll go out.
What happened? Roll, we'll see. He's on the inside of Eric Vanderpool, pressuring for position.
Boy, they always have trouble down there, don't they? Oh, good.
And that's our GT leader, Robin Liddell.
Great job of not T-boning the 16.
Superb job. Released the brakes, and he was leaning the right way with the car.
Yeah, he had to
release the brakes. It went to the left.
That's the good news.
Now Garcia rejoins in front of the lead car of Mark Goosens, who gets through cleanly. So too does Pruitt. So too does Goosens. Problem for our GT points leader, Pumpelly, with a flat rear. Left.
This doesn't surprise me, Calvin. All that bumping and pushing around, the carbon shards out there, these tires just can't go through all of that all day long without somebody getting punctured.
Oh, day may be over. We see that sign. This is a disaster for Kevin Buckler and this group. Came into this race with the championship lead. Brian is down there.
Well, guys, looking at it right now, definitely the tire's flat. No question about that, but stud problems on the hub. The wheel comes off. 5 broken studs on that hub, so don't know whether that happened first and the debris from that sheared or made the tire go flat, but right now the 67's day is done here in Mexico City.
Those are all the drive studs that hold that wheel and give it drive off the corner. That also could have been knocked off by side-to-side contact with another car.
Yeah. That will move Jamison Riley and the Racer's Edge RX-8 up 1 position.
Or Jameson.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. And that was Oswaldo Negri through on the inside. So he is now ahead of the Kodak Easy Share car of Mamo Gidley, who continues to slide. Oswaldo Negri is now in the top 5, and this has been a remarkable performance from car number 60. The brand new bodywork of Riley on that car, the Ford power plant. Remember, Mike Shank Racing switched this year from Lexus to Ford, and this is not a professional driver. It's a pro and a gentleman driver going for the Truman Award. Oswaldo Negri and Mark Patterson. This year, they finished 6th at the Rolex 24, 3rd at Homestead. They're in the top 5 again. You would not have predicted that at the start of this year. It's an outstanding beginning.
And they're driving a very clean race. You see both of them keeping out of trouble. You know, Mark did a great job at the opening stint, got the car around, and Oz is putting it right in contention, but he's not knocked the sides of it in yet.
Good clean going so far. Gets away. And there's no pressure from Gidley now. Gidley has Ian James on him, and it's spread out up front as well. Goosens has some breathing room. So too does Pruitt, so too does Zonta. Where, we ask the question again, is Alex Gurney? Finally coming through the Peraltada now.
That traffic cost him dearly, but we still have 12 laps to go, so Alex just needs to keep his head down. Remember last year, Pappas got around him, and I thought the race victory was going to go away from the 99 squad again, but Alex kept his head down and was there to take advantage. I think we're going to see some more action before the end of this.
Calvin, I was just talking to John Fogarty, and he said, we have such a good car on long runs. I asked him if there was enough time, and he said basically what you just said. Anything can happen. Alex has his head down. We're going to try to take it to the front. And you get a car that runs for a long time around here and stays well balanced, you certainly have a shot at it.
You know, when you're in a situation like this where the cars are so equal, what you do is you ride for a while, let things get cool, and you attack for a while. If you attack in one lap a couple of times and you can't make the pass, you back off and you ride for a while again.
You have to think big picture. I mean, trying to force the issue through these S's with a GT car, it can cost you the whole championship season.
Absolutely.
Throw it in the wall, it can be all over in a big hole when you got the championship leader already in front of you.
Well, guys, on the NASCAR ovals, the spotters are up on the roof because they can see the whole track, and they're helping out their drivers. At a racetrack like this, they don't have that luxury, but Tim Keene is loving our coverage of the guys up front. He's really been talking to Scott the last half an hour and telling him exactly what Zonta's been doing behind him, telling him, don't worry about it, keep your eyes ahead. I will tell you when he's popping out, and it's really just been marvelous to see because Pruitt can kind of edge over and come in a little bit when Zonta pops, but when he stays in line, Pruitt's using all the racetrack. Keene just asked him, how's the car car doing? Pruitt's response, it's loose.
Tim Keane, who has been given a new nickname we learned this weekend here in Mexico City. He was getting around the pool in some pretty flash gear, and apparently the boys have called him the Hoff, after David Hasselhoff with his big blonde locks. Hey, reminding you that next up, the Rolex Series visits the very undulating and entertaining Virginia International Raceway. Dirk Werner claimed the only victory of his championship season there last year at VIR, and look for SunTrust Racing to try and duplicate the first of its 2 wins in 07. They need to bounce back. Boy, they've got a hard week ahead. Catch round 4 on Sunday, May 3 at 12 p.m. right here on Speed. We welcome you back to Mexico City. And there's some wonderful storylines, not only in Daytona Prototype, but GT as well. Stevenson Motorsports lead this race and are heading for their first not only win, but first podium in Rolex Series competition. Still a long way to go. We're not done with yet. 9 laps to run. Robin Liddell, he has had 5 Grand Am Rolex Series GT wins, but all in Porsches. Pontiac is something completely different for him.
He's got to really massage that throttle carefully, Dorsey. He's got to make 60 laps on this stint if we see the full 100 lap mark here today. There you see Edwards get split by the DP traffic. That's cost Edwards time. So that's good news for Robin Liddell.
And the Stevenson crew is, this is going to be a great day for them if they can win this race, even if they finish up on the podium.
Yep.
I mean, you're looking up against the factory Pontiac right here. This is a factory GM racing effort, and they're outrunning it presently. And so this is just monumental to this small team.
And a lot of credit goes to Mike Johnson, the team manager there,
who works at this job and still has time to go home and make babies.
Yeah, it's a good effort. Paul Edwards, I'm just looking at the GT point situation as far as the manufacturers are concerned. Porsche leads on 64, Mazda are 3 back on 61, Pontiac are on 59. This will help their manufacturers' championship cause. Battle for a top 5 position. Lawson Archenbach versus Bryce Miller. There's a little bit of a love tap there.
This is good stuff.
That's the way to do it, right? Just like that.
Letting you know I'm here.
Miller is very fast in this Porsche, but he has not been happy with the setup. They said they had a suspension problem. That in turn was affecting the braking, and Kevin Buckler backed that up in his interview earlier with, I can't remember if it was Chris O'Brien, but he said, we're just not quite there this weekend for some reason. So a top 5 result, I'm sure that Bryce Miller and Ted Ballou will come away feeling very satisfied.
It looks like Miller's Porsche gets off these corners, Calvin, a little bit better than the Pontiac does. Yeah. Pontiac seems to be better on these sweepers, the high speed, like right here.
Gets close to him, so if he can close that gap and get the full effect of the draft down this front straightaway. Tires are getting old, however. A lot of laps on these tires. 38 laps.
And I think that launch is due to the Porsche's engine being over the rear wheel, so when he gets on the throttle, it's got less slippage than the Pontiac, which is front engine, rear drive.
Here comes Zonta, and this lead quartet, even though Gurney's dropped back considerably, have been running similar lap times. The space, the gaps have stayed the same because of those very similar lap times. 1:22.0 for Goossens, 1:22.2 for Pruitt, 1:22.2 for Zonta, 1:22.4 for Gurney.
What a job that the Krone Racing, sorry Dawson, the Krone Racing Group have done. I mean, they look to be out to lunch with this car, but they just keep working away. They haven't had a lot of test time, and that's really showing the fruits of their labor right now.
I mean, usually what you would do in this situation is go to lap 5 to go, and then you take the collars off and say, let them run.
We need to squeeze in a quick break, so when we come back, we can take you all the way to the checkered flag. Will Goossens and Matthews get there? Speed is your home of Formula One, and the first European Grand Prix of the year, the Spanish Grand Prix, coming your way April 27th at 7:30 in the morning Eastern, 4:30 a.m. Pacific, and that's live. And of course, Fernando Alonso, the favourite there, hometown hero. Will he be able to do it? We'll wait and see. Goossens is under increasing pressure from Scott Pruitt. While we're in the commercial break, Ricardo Zonta was done no favours coming through GT traffic, so he's left these two guys out by themselves, and there is Alex Gurney in the background in the red 99 Gainsco car. It's Pruitt versus Goossens, two veterans of the sport, two classy drivers. Who will get it?
Zonta just really getting held up something terrible back there, and he's going to have to deal with Bill Lester in the 3 car here in a minute.
Tremendous front grip. You can see that Pruitt has. He's really hugging those curbs, having to wait on Mark to get on the gas, but it's probably coming off the corners that Pruitt is struggling a little bit, trying to free up those hands so he doesn't pinch the car and get it into an oversteer slide, trying to save the tires. A lot of laps on these cars right now. 54 laps since their last pit stop.
The 3 of Bill Lester, the goal was to be inside the top 10, if not inside the top 5. He's in 12th at the moment with some work to do. He's got Darren Law and Eric Vanderpool ahead.
And Bill Lester did a great thing right there. They were passing a GT car, and he moved to the outside and let Zonta go to the inside, knowing that he'd be passed there. And that was a very, very heads-up move.
Not missing the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series racing. He said, I've done that. That's a part of my career. I'm really loving being in Rolex Series competition. Remember at the top of the show, the key storyline for the white and blue Telmex Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabata's car. 3 in a row. Can they do it? No team has ever won in Daytona prototypes. That is the first 3 races of a season. And this 91 Riley Matthews Pontiac stands in the way and stands to spoil the party of Rojas and Pruitt here in Mexico.
The reason it's tough to win 3 in a row at the start of the season is you've got to win that big one, the 24-hour race.
Zonta's come back. That's great. Look at that.
Now the Ruby Tuesday car moved away out of the way, let these guys race on. So Zonta is back. We got 4 to go. It's going to be on this lap.
He was 0.6 of a second faster, Dawson, than Pruitt on that last lap around.
The problem for Zonta is I think on a lap he's slightly faster race car, but when he gets to the front straightaway and into that braking zone, he doesn't seem to be able to compete. So we're talking about that downforce setup that the Lola boys are working with to try and trade off a little of that grip and just get a bit more straightaway speed to make it a bit more racy in these type of situations.
Talking about racing.
Yeah.
The word is out on the streets. Time to go.
They've acknowledged how productive that inside line hugging the wall through the Peraltada is, particularly for John Fogarty earlier in the race and Scott Pruitt to get his way up into second and ultimately to the lead down this front stretch. Just 3 laps to go. Can Mark Goosens hang on for his second Daytona prototype victory?
Yeah, Pruitt just stretches it a little bit. That means he does not have to defend from the Chrome machine. He can just focus on the car in front of him, which is the good news.
Boy, and traffic can really play into this with the cars being that close.
Well, this is huge for Ricardo Zonta and for Krone Racing. Jeff Hazel, Tracy Krone himself, David Brown, the entire organisation in only its 2nd appearance in Grand Am Racing to be on the podium. He's not there yet, but it's looking good with 2.5 to go.
They're down in 11th place in points, the Zonta and Nick Johnson pairing, but that could have been so much stronger without that penalty at Homestead. They were a factor. They had a top 5 finish at Daytona, and they had another strong one the last race outing, and this is looking good too, so they're knocking on the door.
And traffic ahead of these guys, not too far, that Mazda right there.
Now you remember the story behind the 76. Krone Racing, or I should say Proto Auto LLC, got into a licenseship arrangement with Multimatic. They were able to incorporate the Lola bodywork on top. And look at this, Jim Matthews. Well done, Jim, for what you did earlier in the race. He is getting better with every outing, and he was able to bring back a clean, fast car to Mark Goosens. 2 to go. Pruitt is relentless. He wants this one. He wants the 3-peat, and he wants to win it for his Mexican teammate in front of his home crowd.
Goosens has done a tremendous job here today. He really hasn't put a foot wrong. He's been in the thick of the battle, got the car to the front. Now he's keeping it clean. But traffic, I think you're right, Dorsey, could be the thing that may stymie him here in the last couple of laps.
Chris?
Well, Lee, you were talking about how Proto Auto has taken over that licensing agreement for the Multimatic. Now, don't think that Multimatic is really out of the equation, because a lot of the construction of not only the chassis, but also the bodywork still done up in Canada. All the development stuff done over at Lola in UK, but still a lot of work coming out of the Multimatic group up in Canada.
In fact, their composite guy used to work at Lola over in England, so he's moved over to Canada to control things there. Just a great group. They're going to do very well this year with this car.
Updating you on GT, Robin Liddell still boasts a 3.5-second lead over Paul Edwards, and Dirk Werner is 3rd. Look at the fans, they're willing Pruitt on. They want that Telmex machine on top of the podium. Final lap, we're on our way home.
Goosens looking in good shape. He had a nice gap coming off that final corner. That's what he needed to get down into this braking zone without pressure from Pruitt. Pruitt sitting there hounding
Where is the traffic? Is there anyone ahead of Goossens? There'll be a player here. Looks clear right now.
No real passing opportunities up in through this area of the racetrack until you get to that final corner. And they're not really close enough, I don't think, to mount attack. I don't think Pruitt's in tight enough.
You're not going to rattle a driver like Mark Goossens. These are three quality performers right here. Goossens, Pruitt and Zonta. He is trying in the green machine, in the Lola. He is trying for second. He's not happy with just a podium. He wants more. Right on the back of Scott Pruitt.
Great grip through that first part of the S's, Dorsey, with the Lola.
He backed away and got that run, and it really gave him some speed through here.
We're on our way home if you've just tuned in, as it's been a very eventful Grand Am Rolex Series race.
He's in good shape. He's going to catch a draft there. Pruitt will need to defend going into the Peraltada.
Final two corners coming up. The Riley Matthews team is poised for just its second victory in Daytona Prototype Racing, and it's going to get there. Jim Matthews and Mark Goossens, they won in Utah last year. They win in Mexico City. Another different winner in Daytona Prototype Racing in Mexico. And that winning feels good. And how about this? Stevenson Motorsports have never even been on the podium in Rolex GT racing. Their best was a fourth at Lime Rock Park. They are going to go, they just bypassed third and second. They're going all the way to victory lane.
Fingers crossed though, Dorsey. They've still got to get their own fuel. They're pushing it 60 laps out of that Pontiac. Just amazing fuel economy.
The 07's right there. I mean, this is such a good win if he can get it to the finish line without running out of fuel.
Robin Liddell knows what it's like to win in Rolex GT competition. His teammate Andrew Davis has never won. He had a best result of second at Miller Motorsports Park. He is now going to call himself a Rolex race winner. Well done to Stevenson Motorsports. Pontiac is victorious and the little team did it. Well done. Robin Liddell and Andrew Davis, they win GT, and that is our third different winner in as many races.
What a huge day in the points for the 07 machine, however, with their main competitors in this championship both having problems. The Pompelli car, the 70 machine had that huge wreck. They should assume the championship lead tonight.
That is such a huge effort from that small team. I mean, I was sitting here grilling. That is just awesome.
Well, it's two relatively small teams, if you want to look at it that way.
True.
Riley Matthews, Bill Riley.
There's your hat.
Yeah.
Mark will be wearing one of those by midnight tonight, I bet you.
That is just an awesome result. Great race, ground away at it. Spoils the party for the Telmex boys. They don't get the three-peat, but we've got a fresh winner in 2008. The Riley Matthews team are thrilled. What a day in Mexico City, a day where the Goose flew. Chris is with him.
Well, amazing job by these guys getting their second win. Mark, talk about that run through the pack and then all the pressure that Pruitt had on the whole race.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Like all the driver cooling in the car, I ripped off my helmet and everything by that maneuver with the 58 car there, which I think wasn't necessary for what he did. But yeah, once I got by Scott, he kept putting pressure on me all the way along, and you know, it was pretty tough to keep the lead.
Jim, your sophomore season with this team, 2 top 10s, a fourth at Homestead, now a win. Are you surprised with the success?
No, I expected it. I mean, I got the best people around me. I got the best driver. I got the best team owner. You surround yourself with the best.
Well, they've got great stuff, and they're going to come on strong this year. Right?
Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas down here getting congratulations from Chip Ganassi. Scott, I think battle doesn't even come close to describing that.
That was a great show. That's what Grand Am Racing's about. I can't say enough for my teammate Mimo, a Hotel Mex crew, Ganassi guys. Hi to my family at home. It was good. It was hard. I mean, I'm happy for the 91 guys. That's their first win. I wish we could have put it in victory circle, but we're in racing for the championship, so second's not too bad.
And the championship is what is so important, Memo, and you guys now never off the podium. A good finish here in front of your home crowd. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, obviously a podium in front of your home crowd is always good. We're very happy. We had a great race. I think we gave them a great battle and a great show. It was a tough race. Anybody of the top 4 cars could have won this race. So, well, it came down to the last few laps, and we're happy to get the podium for the points.
It's all about the championship, and Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas, they control it right now, guys.
Yeah, what a start. 2 wins and a second place for the 01 team, and wasn't quite what the crowd was looking for. They wanted that Rojas Pruitt machine on top, but a very hard race indeed. We congratulate Krone, the Proto Auto Group, their very first podium with the new Lola. And that will be much relief. Fogarty and Gurney, they were in there fighting hard all the way. And look right down to the bottom. 18th and last for Valiente and Angelelli. and that is going to be a very hard week ahead getting ready for VIR. All right, let's take a look at the Pontiac race-changing performance, and it happened at the hands of a Pontiac driver. Great move from Goosens around the outside of Pruitt. That was big.
Used the draft perfectly, and then just simply outbraked Scott around the outside. Scott went to the inside, had to brake a little bit harder, and played it clean from that point out. Just a magnificent drive by Mark Goosens, and the team performance was right there behind him.
All right, Cal Dorse, you were talking about points not long ago. This is how it stands. They had a 13-point advantage, that is Rojas and Pruitt. Coming into this round, they now boast a 16-point advantage over the Riley Matthews gang. Gurney and Fogarty in third, but it's tight. They're just one back, and then a further four. Mark Patterson, Oswaldo Negri must be pinching themselves. They're in the top 5 after 3 rounds. More from the pits.
3 GT races, 3 GT winners, and you guys today, Robin Liddell, Andrew Davis, you took it to the factory. How special does that feel to come away with the first win for this team?
Yeah, very special. I mean, all the guys at Steven Sonato have worked incredibly hard. I'd like to thank John and Susan for the opportunity, Mike Johnson, team manager, and calling a great strategy on the fuel. You know, we were a bit slower than the 07 car in the middle part because we went on scuffed tires, but we were on stickers for the last stint, and we called it very fine with the fuel, but it was awesome on the point of view of the guys. They did brilliant pit stops. We got ahead of everybody, you know, and I'd like to thank Brian Mark and all the associated sponsors for such a brilliant job today. We're really happy.
Well, congratulations, guys. Andrew Davis did a great job in the car. First stint, you brought it back in one piece. It was in perfect condition for Robin to take it to the checker.
Well, that was my job today. I was very happy to bring it back. Robin did a phenomenal job. We really won this on pit stops, and just want to say thanks to everybody, everybody back at Steven Sonato, all the employees. Thanks so much. First win for me.
Congratulations, guys. Mike Johnson comes away with a victory. 2 of them this weekend, a child at home and a win here, Chris.
Well, when you look at the right side of this Pontiac, it's got a lot of the Farnbacher Porsche across it. Is that what really kind of impeded you to get up to the front?
No, you know, we had a little bit mishaps on, you know, our pit stop. You know, we got behind the 8 ball on that and ended up at the back of the pack. That was just good, clean, hard racing, you know, nothing. That definitely wasn't the holdup for me. There was just passing the whole field was kind of the holdup. But, I mean, the car's in one piece. The Spanner Racing Pontiac is going to go to VIR next week. And we got great momentum. Everyone did a great job. It was a really fun race. Had a really good time.
Kelly, last year you were fighting your way out of a hole all season long to try and work your way into the championship. You guys are leading now. What does that do for the strategy the rest of the season?
Well, it just keeps us in that hunt earlier on, and we're ahead of the game farther along than we were last year. We're not, you know, looking for anything, but we're just definitely going to keep our heads down, focus, and not really look at the championship lead and try to win as many races as we can.
Well, going into this race, the Porsche team was leading the championship, now Pontiac.
Yep, the boys from Banner are on top. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first the results. And look at that, Pontiac 1-2. Pontiac have a real thing here at Mexico City. That means 3 of the 4 races here have been won by the GM brand. And look at that. Rolex 24 race-winning team, the 70 Speed Source crew at the back. Points, 10 points the difference now. Collins and Edwards, the new GT Series leaders over Werner and Pumpelly. All right, we've got to update the SunTrust Improve Your Position Award, and we congratulate the race winners. The Stallings Riley Matthews organisation, their Pontiac Riley, from 15th to 1st. And then we also say well done to the 66, the TRG gang, coming from 10th to 6th. Final thoughts very quickly.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the kind of a race that a fan wants to see. Knock them, sock them, really bash good
Some
racing.
of these teams, Dorsey, have a lot of work to do to get cars healthy for next week at VIR.
This is just a snapshot of the highlight here today. It was a very eventful race, and 2 small teams that came through to beat the more established ones to be victorious. We congratulate Mark Goosens and Jim Matthews, Robin Liddell and first-time winner Andrew Davis. What a day in Mexico. We'll see you in a week's time at VIR.